6 p.m. on Wednesday, July 8th. So we'll call this Planning Commission meeting to order. Welcome to our applicants, visitors, citizens, city staff. We will start with Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Temple will lead us in that. If you want to rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call starting on my left.
Joel Temple, no conflicts.
Jonathan Hill, no conflicts.
Melissa Kendall, no conflicts.
John Lyons, no conflicts.
Tosh Metzger, no conflicts.
Matt Wheelwright, no conflicts. I want to welcome Tosh to his first meeting as a commissioner. So thanks for being. All right. I want to read a statement on decorum for those who will comment and present tonight. Although this is a public hearing, only the presenters and those invited by the commission may speak or ask questions unless otherwise invited by the chair. Please wait to speak until invited. When speaking, be sure to speak into the microphone so that the record is clear. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. Please limit side conversations as they interfere with the audio recording. If you need to have a side conversation, please step out of the chambers. Please do not attempt to interrupt or speak over others. Intimidating or threatening speech or behavior will not be tolerated at any time. Please refrain from clapping, cheering, booing, or being otherwise disruptive during the hearing. We have 5 agenda items tonight, but we will treat 1 and 2 together first. So I will read both of those in so our discussion and the record can apply to both. So item 1, Tuscanel Townhomes LLC requests concept plan approval for a 12-unit townhome project in a proposed HDR high-density residential zone located at 313 East, 200 North, Joaquin neighborhood. And also item 2, Tuscanel Townhomes LLC requests a zone map amendment from the RC residential conservation zone to the HDR zone in order to develop a 12-unit townhome project located at 313 East, 200 North, Joaquin neighborhood. We have received some letters from the community on this one, and I asked John to just read those names just so everybody knows who's on the record as sending in some letters.
Joni McIntyre, Robert Mills, Rachel Russon, Tom Spencer, Francis Callis, Florence Hawkinson, David Hawkinson, David Whipple, and McIntyre.
Thanks, John. Okay, so we will invite Dustin, our city, one of our planners, to come start our presentation tonight.
All right, thank you. So we're looking here at the proposed property for items 1 and 2. So these are 2 parcels that are highlighted here. There's existing structures. There's a single family home on the corner, and just north of it on that parcel is a triplex. Like mentioned, you've received some letters from citizens. And this project's also gone to district neighborhood meetings a few different times. So here is the current zoning on the property. This is in the residential conservation or the RC zone. This zone prohibits new units or lots from being created. So essentially just maintaining what the legal occupancy and use is on the property. The applicant is looking to develop this property, so as part of that is the rezone request to change to the high-density residential or HDR zone. That zone allows for a density of 50 units per acre. The 12-unit townhome project that they're proposing would be 27 units per acre. And along with that, on the screen here is a plan that was adopted by the city for the Joaquin neighborhood. It's part of the general plan as an appendix in the general plan. And these documents are created to take a more detailed look at the neighborhood's more granular than the general plan. And on this one here, you can see the future land use map coming from that plan. Essentially what this future land use maps job is to kind of identify what the land uses should be in the future in the neighborhood to help accomplish the goals and policies in the plan. And so you can see here, this property is in, it's currently zoned RC, and it's in an area in the neighborhood plan that's designating it as staying residential conservation, or RC. You can also see that there's at the north end of the neighborhood, there's an area or areas designated to have the high density residential zone. So the goal there was to put the high density housing closer to the BYU campus, which is just north of the Joaquin neighborhood. And then here's the concept plan that the applicant's proposing for these 12 townhome units. These are 2 to 3 bedroom units, and there's some 1 bedroom units as well. I believe there's 2 1 bedroom units, and the rest is 2 and 3 bedroom units. The site is 0.45 of an acre. It's like I mentioned earlier, it's 27 units an acre. Here are the elevations of the proposed development. So there would be parking garages on the main level, and then the bedroom and living space on levels 2 and 3. The height is 42 feet, and the HDR zone that they're requesting allows for 55 feet in height. So with that, they've proffered a development agreement to limit the height to what they're showing here at 42 feet. And the density, the 27 units per acre, and a deed restriction that the housing units are sold to owner occupants for at least a year is what they've proposed. And that's kind of an overview of these 2 items. If there's any questions that you have for me, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions from the commissioners for Dustin? John?
Yes. So how does this change the density of that block or of the particular site that it's doing? So one of the issues, the reason I ask is the Joaquin neighborhood plan talks about areas in this to not change the density there. And so does this change the density, and how does it? Population per acre, units per acre?
Yeah, so it currently has 4 units, single family home and a 4-plex. So that request to go to 12 units increases that existing density there.
Okay. Thank you.
Joel?
Can I ask if that single family home is occupied as a single family home, or is it subletted? And I know a lot of the homes in that region are split into 3, 4, 5 units.
My understanding is that it's a single family home as far as the city recognizes it.
Okay.
If you're asking if it's rented or owner occupied, my guess is that it's rented.
Okay.
Jonathan?
Yeah, so can you comment on the buildings immediately surrounding the property on that same block? Are those townhomes, apartments? There's something multi-unit, but I can't tell what.
Yeah, there's kind of a mix. There's some single family homes, there's apartments, some duplexes and triplexes, and that's kind of what we see typically in the RC zone is a bit of a mix of whatever was legally allowed when that zone went into place.
Okay.
And just to follow up on that, and timing wise, I assume those, when the neighborhood plan came into effect, those were already existing, so they fit with what was intended in the neighborhood plan. Is that accurate? Those aren't things we've added in the last few years.
Yeah, so if anything in the last few years changed, they would have had to go through a zone change. So as you can see, all this area around this is still in the RC zone.
Okay. Yes, please.
Yeah, that's what I was going to comment too, but not that it fit within it, just that it was grandfathered in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the intent with the neighborhood plan was to try to preserve what was remaining of the single family homes in that yellow area, and also recognizing the pressure and need for higher density housing. And so the goal was to place that closer to BYU campus in the north of the neighborhood to try to relieve the pressure of development down in that yellow area below 500 North.
Okay, thanks, Dustin. We'll now invite the applicant forward. I believe the applicant's here, right? Okay. You'll have 15 minutes for your presentation. You'll see a little timer there, but we may call you back for questions right after or later on, so be flexible with us, but 15 minutes is yours if you need it.
Of course. Thank you. And good evening, Planning Commission members. And thank you, Dustin, for the introduction. Yes, Taryn Melissa Elkins. Several months ago, during one of our final design meetings, we brought a box of chip cookies to celebrate what we had hoped would be the finish line of this 4-year process. At the very end of the meeting, Dustin identified one final issue that could have sent the project right straight back to the drawing board. After seeing the panic on my face, he smiled and he said, "You're going to want your cookies back, aren't you?" Thankfully, the project survived, and so did the cookies, and we truly appreciate your service and the many evenings you devote to our community as we introduce our project. Go ahead. Slide 2 there. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Taryn Melissa Elkins. This property has been home to my grandfather, my father, my sister, myself, and now my children. It has been part of our family story for over 50 years. Slide. Over time, the surrounding context has changed dramatically. Today, more than 30 apartment units directly overlook the property, fundamentally changing the character of the site. We explored preserving and reinvesting in the existing improvements, but the costs were substantial and the site challenges still remain. Ultimately, we saw an opportunity to create high-quality, owner-occupied housing that better serves both the neighborhood and the community. This project represents nearly 4 years of collaboration. We've worked closely with city staff, neighboring property owners, planning commission members, elected officials, and the community through multiple project refinements. With the city engineering staff, we've secured additional property necessary for HDR eligibility and to achieve a better overall site design. We've partnered with Public Works to upgrade the 6-inch sewer line into a 10-inch line, delivering a long-planned infrastructure improvement that benefits the entire block. We've expressed a willingness to formalize commitments through a development agreement, and we voluntarily proposed a deed restriction requiring owner occupancy as a primary residence for that minimum of 1 year. HDR is being requested primarily for setback flexibility, allowing improved landscaping, circulation, and more functional homes. As most of you are aware, the MDR setbacks are 20, 20, and 10, as HDR setbacks are 10, 10, and 20, which significantly improves the footprint of this project. So while the zoning request is HDR, the project itself remains MDR in scale, height, density, parking, and overall character. Every residence includes a private garage with off-street access, helping preserve an attractive pedestrian landscape, and that guest parking and bicycle parking are also provided. What excites us most about this project is who it is designed for. These homes are intended for households looking to establish roots and invest in the neighborhood. So this is the community we spent 4 years creating. Let me introduce you to the Tuscanel Townhomes. Centered around home ownership, thoughtful architecture, quality landscaping, and neighborhood compatibility. And although this application again requires that HDR zoning, the project itself remains contextually consistent with the surrounding neighborhood in its height, massing, and residential feel, creating lasting value for both the neighborhood and the city of Provo. And that last slide. In summation, we are proposing to build 12 owner-occupied townhomes, infrastructure improvements benefiting the block, a project significantly below HDR height and density allowances, and designed to strengthen long-term home ownership in Provo and the Joaquin neighborhood. And we appreciate the opportunity to continue partnering with you on creating a project that reflects those characters, those values, and that long-term future of Provo. So thank you for your time, your service, and your consideration.
Thank you. Any immediate questions for the applicant from commission? Okay, thank you.
That's
We'll stay close. We'll
Okay.
likely call you back up.
You got
Oh, sorry, Tosh has one. Sorry, Tosh has one
Sorry.
question for you.
Yes.
I have a question. You mentioned it was 1 year owner occupied.
Mhm.
Is there a reason why it's just 1 year, not 2 years or 3 years or?
You know, that's what we had originally thought of, and so
Mhm.
we just kind of stuck with that 1 year.
Okay.
Um,
Is there also a percentage of home ownership versus rental in the HOA agreement? Does that make sense? Like some HOAs limit how many rental apartments can be in the unit. Like, is that what this is as well? Is there like a limit? Okay, you only have 25% rentals, or is it all just after a year they can sell it and rent it and move on?
It would be after that year time.
Mhm.
And if that year time, if you're more comfortable with the 2 years, I'd be happy going the 2 years. We want to encourage that owner occupancy just as much as you do.
Mhm.
And, you know, Joaquin neighborhood, there's 24% owner occupancy in that neighborhood. And so to be able to have that owner occupancy would be really nice.
So you wouldn't limit you wouldn't have a rental agreement, like a rental limit in the
No.
HOA. It would just be, there's 12 units, and even, let's say if someone moves in after a year and they want to rent it out to 2 or 3 students, over a year, this could all be student rentals eventually.
And
If
you know
there's
what?
if there's no limit on a rental.
You're absolutely correct. And there's no way of gauging that. There's no way of stopping that. But all we can do is put in the proper components along the way and do everything that we possibly can for that not to happen.
Okay, thank
But
you.
obviously, yeah. No trouble.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, we'll now open for public comment, but we would like to start with a neighborhood chair. Is there a neighborhood chair present? All right, thank you. Welcome. You'll have 3 minutes. Please start with your name and any other details you want, but you'll have 3 minutes to share with us, okay?
Thank you. My name is Laura Levitt, and I'm here representing the Central Neighborhood District Board with feedback gathered from our June 17th meeting. First, on the staff report, it's clear and factual. It states 5 separate times that this project does not comply with the Joaquin Neighborhood Plan's residential conservation designation or the future land use map, and twice notes the applicant is requesting high-density residential zoning that runs contrary to that plan. Staff also rejected the applicant's claim that reducing the project to 12 units would minimize impacts on neighbors, stating plainly that impacts on adjacent landowners remain. The applicant argues the area has already evolved toward higher density, pointing to Apollo, Aspenwood, Fleur-de-Lis, and Casa Linda. Residents pushed back hard on this. 3 of these 4 predate 1985, and their heights match the 1.5 and 2-story homes nearby. The real outlier, Summerlin condos, which the applicant didn't mention, is exactly why the city imposed a moratorium on high-density development in South Joaquin in 2000, adopted the RC zone in 2002, and reaffirmed it in the 2014 Joaquin Neighborhood Plan. No high-density project has been approved in South Joaquin since. The evolution the applicant describes happened before RC zoning existed. It's the reason RC zoning exists. The overwhelming sentiment from residents was that this project is still too big for that reason. Approving it would undercut the entire premise behind the RC designation, with real knock-on effects for the next density request that comes along. Residents noted that the 2014 plan already opened roughly the northern half of Joaquin to higher density. This parcel sits outside that zone, and if exceptions are made, residents feel that they belong on the periphery along major corridors, not in the interior of the neighborhood. Site-specific concerns came up too: a loss of mature tree buffer along the Apollo Apartments parking lot, leaving townhome front doors just a few feet from that lot with minimal landscaping, a design some residents called uniform and unwelcoming, and a lack of private outdoor space, which residents said undercuts the case for townhomes over apartments, especially for the families this project is meant to serve. We did hear some support. One Zoom attendee offered It favored the project for adding housing diversity and density, and a non-resident landlord supported it, citing deed restrictions and infrastructure upgrades. Residents also asked whether the project includes affordable or replacement units for displaced tenants. Staff confirmed there is no such requirement. On balance, the neighborhood's feedback strongly favors denial, or at minimum, sending this back to the applicant for a redesign with less height, fewer units, genuine green space, and a real buffer from the Apollo property. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll now open for public comment. If there are many of you here to comment, we'd invite you to kind of line up so we don't have a lot of downtime between comments. These are for comments only. If you have questions about an item, please talk to staff privately. Please start with your name and city of residence for the record. When your time is up, you'll have 2 minutes. When your time is up, you'll hear a ding and the microphone will actually be muted. Each person may comment once. If we have questions, we'll invite you to come back to the microphone at that time. So again, start with your name and place of residence, and Sandy will have the 2-minute timer in the corner.
I'm Victor Moxley, a resident of Provo. My family owns the home on the corner just to the north of this property. We desperately need the added density in Provo. We're in a housing crisis across the country. Provo is not exempt from that housing crisis. In addition, the RC zone and the economics of it and the added difficulties of developing from it creates economic pressures that make it difficult to maintain the neighborhood, causing many properties to become run down. This block is no exception to that, and having these restrictions in place causes it. But doing this kind of carve-out spot zoning for it only makes the problems worse, having areas of improvement right next to areas that continue to dwindle. We need to have this be a unified master plan instead of continuing to just do it lot by lot. And I hope that we can have some kind of unified plan that replaces the RC zone with something more sustainable than just a moratorium on development, or just individually granting it to individual property owners who have to overcome huge barriers to be able to work around the restrictions of the RC zone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Matt Dial from Orem. This property, when I was first married 30 years ago, I lived kitty corner to the property. So I've had my eye on, development and paid attention. I heard that there was, some improvements and a proposal for this area, and I'd seen some negative stuff online. So I wanted to look at it again. I hadn't been over there for a minute, and after seeing what it's surrounded by with the high density units that are there, there's no question this is a no-brainer improvement for me. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm David Hawkinson, a Joaquin resident. I oppose this development on the following reasons. The development does not comply with the current residential conservation zone to encourage home ownership and keep the existing housing. The application has requested a rezone from residential to high density residential, and then, according to the staff report, still does not meet the parking requirement for high density residential. The proposed design is also having 12 garbage cans stored within the garages, which will then be removed and placed out on the street in a designated garbage collection zone. So there will be 12, up to 12 and or more if any of the residents decide to opt into recycling. And I don't know of any other street in the neighborhood that has 12 garbage cans out on any single time. This will also affect the parking. If the application being requested to rezone is approved, then the current residential conservation zone designed to protect and preserve the residential feel and makeup of the neighborhood will become null and void and give open season on any and all properties within the neighborhood to become rezoned to high density housing, and thus destroying the current residential neighborhood feel. Once Pandora's box is opened, it will not be able to be closed.
Hi, my name's Susan Kruger Barber. I've been a vice chair before for the Joaquin neighborhood when they did the neighborhood stuff. I actually was present way before this. It's what made me active in the city as a new mom who had just built a new house in the neighborhood. And I worked with the landlords, the city, and neighbors on creating the Joaquin plan. It was a lot. It took a year, and then it took a year to actually pass it. It was a lot of political work. I live on a 0.12. My house is a fourth of that, and it's 3 stories, 2,200 feet. I love it. I feel so lucky to live there. That's a possibility. For really nice houses, you can come look at mine. It's the blue one with the orange door. And also my other thing is I gave Austin a pocket neighborhood. I talk with my hands. I gave Austin a pocket neighborhood book to lend to you if you want to look at it. Perfect. So I'd love for, if we have to tear down the houses or do anything else, for a more community-based little neighborhood that creates community to be put there with 4 to 6 tiny little cottages, some for retired people, some for just professionals who just need a little tiny house, and some for families. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not nearly that enthusiastic, sorry. My name's Lee Adair. I live kitty corner from where this development would be. I have lived in that neighborhood for about 30 years. I bought a home. We rented that home first. After a year, we bought our home and we started turning that house into a home. We've been there for 30 years. And as part of that, I was really involved in early neighborhood planning. You might have heard of SCAMP, South Campus Area Master Plan. That's how long I've been sitting on this stuff. I've got to tell you, this residential conservancy, the RC zone that is used in Joaquin is probably the most democratic piece of policy that has ever come out of Provo. Hundreds of people, hundreds of residents, citizens, landlords, city officials spent countless hours discussing, planning, working through particulars, negotiating, and finally setting up this residential conservancy zone with a very specific goal, which was designed to preserve one of the last historic neighborhoods in Provo while allowing for higher density just north of where this area is. Now, it's unfortunate that many landlords, not necessarily in this neighborhood, but in nearby neighborhoods, sometimes let their homes deteriorate to the point where it needs to be rebuilt, at least according to them. They use that as an excuse to then build with higher density and higher profitability. I'm not against profitability, but not when it comes to hurt a neighborhood. This particular property still looks fine. It's got a density that's appropriate to the neighborhood. The only real motivating factor in rezoning here is to optimize rental income. Perhaps the current developers should consider selling that house and letting somebody like me start their home dream by taking that house, rehabbing it, putting a family in there, loving it, and building the neighborhood that way.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Brown. I live in Orem and I'm the general contractor on this project. I've spent my career building homes and neighborhoods, and one thing that I've learned is that drawings don't always tell the whole picture. You learn a lot about a project by the questions that the team asks as they go through this process. Some projects ask, how do we save money? Some others ask, how do we build more? But throughout the last 4 years, this team kept asking a different question, and that question was, how do we make this better? I've known Taryn for a long time, and she doesn't settle for good enough. She has sat in numerous neighborhood meetings and listened to that feedback, both positive and negative. She's asked hard questions and keeps improving things until she believes that she's found the best solution. I've watched that approach shape this project every step of the way. The project that you see today is a result of years of refinement and collaboration and change. That commitment is reflected in decisions a lot of people don't ever notice or won't see. She's going to improve the existing sewer infrastructure, and she's going to work with the city on purchasing additional property to make the site function better. Those aren't inexpensive investments, but they're the kinds of decisions that create lasting benefits beyond this project. As the general contractor on this project, those decisions are why I chose to be a part of this project. It tells me this team isn't just trying to build on the property, but they're truly trying to invest in the neighborhood. And I highly encourage you to support this project. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for your time. My name is Jenna Lisenby. I reside in Highland. I wanted to just speak about who Taryn is. I've known her for many, many, many years, and there's nobody quite like her. Most people, we grow up and we lose our imagination. And Taryn not only builds her whole life around that, she has taught and inspired all the people who come in contact with her to do the same. I've watched her create amazing community events. She's written children's books. She builds experiences that bring people together. She helped create the Sleepy Hollow Haunted Hay Wagon Ride at Sundance. She transforms her home into a giant magical Christmas snow globe every December. And every Halloween, thousands, and I mean thousands of people visit her home simply because they know she's going to create something special. But what has always impressed me the most isn't these events themselves. Taryn genuinely believes communities become stronger when people have reasons to gather together, when we know our neighbors, when we create those memories together. Over these past 4 years, I've watched her bring that same mindset to this very project. She has listened, she's redesigned, she's met with the neighbors, she's worked with city staff, and she continues to refine this project because she wants to create something the neighborhood as a whole can be proud of, not just something that she has built on her own. Tuscanel Townhomes reflects the same values I've seen in her for years: long-term thinking, community investment, and a genuine desire to leave places better than she found them. I'm proud to support both this project and Taryn, the person behind it. And if you have any doubts of her commitment to community, I invite you to drive past her home this Halloween. You will see just how she is adored by.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Johnson, and I also live kitty corner to this new project. I am a teacher here in Provo School District, and over the last few years, I've heard nothing except we are losing students. So I applaud that this is a family approach. My concern is, one, can families afford it? Two, without permanent long-term families in there, then where are families going? I'm concerned because Joaquin has closed since the time I've moved here. Mazer has closed. Provo Peak's name has been brought up through the rumor mill that may close. Without schools, we lose the feel of a neighborhood. So I encourage you to think about what really makes a neighborhood and how can we make it affordable for families that want to stay, because Provo is a great place to live. So we want to make it so people want to stay. We've seen what happened up at Summit. What is it? It used to be some Splash Mountain. All those homes, most of those condos were supposed to be family, and most of them are students now. So I just ask you to consider that when making that decision. Thanks very much.
Hello, my name is Sophia Sharp. I'm a Provo resident. My husband and I actually are residents of one of the triplexes that is being proposed to be torn down. After living it for a month or so, we can see that the unit does need work. It is very old. It was built in 1891, but it is not deteriorated past to the point of needing to be torn down. It just needs a little tender love and care, like someone said before. Us residents were not informed of the plan to demolish the units. And as someone said before, there is no plan in place to house the displaced residents. And my concern is also that as this is an owner-based project, there's many married students that live in Joaquin, us being among them, looking at this I don't believe that it would be affordable for married students. And then there's also the problem that someone brought up earlier, that it could just turn into rental for single students as well and ruin the feel of the neighborhood and the residential zoning. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mac McIntyre. I am a former teacher. I taught at Dixon and then at Centennial and Timpview. And so I've been around for a while and I've seen a lot of students go through this neighborhood. I live about 2 blocks away from this proposed development. And I enjoy living in this neighborhood. And I've seen a lot of the things that have affected my students over the years. And I saw in the beginning a lot of students who were right there and sedentary, and their families were permanent, and that had over the course of 30 years went for many of them a long ways away. They weren't able to stay. And so I've formulated and theorized, and I think it's true, that we need to have anchors. If this were a boat, you would have to have an anchor. Without an anchor, you can put more sails and it would fly away, but you wouldn't get to where you wanted to go. So for me, I think that we're putting more sails on with this. It's a pretty project. And I think that a lot of people could benefit, just not the ones that we're looking at for this neighborhood. I used to see a lot of my students coming and going in the neighborhood, but those went away. And I think that we don't want to encourage. What I think the end result would be, like Jenny said, we don't want to encourage to have more transient, if you want to call them that, short-term, long-term transient people. We want to have people who invest in the neighborhood and stay here and become anchors, like I think that the permanent people like I am. Thank you.
Thanks, Mac.
Hi, my name is Megan Harris. My parents have lived in Provo for many years, and I hope that one day if my children choose to attend BYU, they'll have the opportunity to own a home nearby and remain close to family. We have lots of family and lots of deep roots around here. Thoughtfully planned, owner-occupied housing like this helps make that possible by giving the next generation a chance to put down roots, build their lives, and continue contributing to the community they already call home. Thank you.
My name is Carrie Wall. I own the house that's just across from this unit, and it was surprising to me that apparently we were informed. I've just texted my husband. We have not been informed of this coming up. So we heard that there might be something just as a rumor through the neighborhood about a year or two ago. We've raised our children just across from where the development be. My question has to do with parking. No one's brought parking up. It is summertime right now. Parking on 200 North is hard at best in the evening to get, but when the students come back in September, there isn't parking. We have kids who go to BYU, and for them to come and be at home, sometimes they'll have to park down at 100 or down even like at 50 North on 3rd East. So I would really request that a study be done on the parking, not just for summertime, but also for when the students are there. These units, if they are going to be owner occupied for 1 year, then after that, is it 3 people that can live in each unit? Because each of them will have cars. They are nice units, and students come in with nice cars, much nicer than we have. So that would be 36 cars on that property. So are there plans for that? And then for the extra 9 or 18 people who would be visiting them as well? That becomes a real problem. The other thing is married couples. There's a huge married couple shortage going on right now. And as I said, I really think that these would be too high end for the struggling students who are desperately looking. We are also
Thank you.
David Keller, my wife and I have lived in Joaquin for 42, 43 years. We lose track. We started out in a condo in a 3-story building on 4th North. We fell in love with the neighborhood, the historic character, the amazing variety of people, and we're still there. So one of the big questions is, has RC zoning helped stabilize the neighborhood since 2001? Well, to the best of my knowledge, since the year 2000 moratorium and the subsequent residential conservation zoning, there have only been 3 multifamily developments in South Joaquin. One was 2 twin homes on a small property east of 7th East. Another one was a project that the developer wanted to make much larger, close to 4th North and 2nd East. But he read the Joaquin neighborhood plan, he talked to the neighbors, and he ended up with a 6-unit apartment building, which fits the character of the neighborhood. So, and the third one is a building that was just recently constructed after some disastrous circumstances that made it impossible to maintain its landmark status. So I could tell you a whole lot, but let me tell you just about our block, which is kitty corner from this project. When we bought our home in 1987, six of the 16 homes on our block were owner occupied. 10 years later, RC came in. 20 years later, year 2000, we had 10. We were down to 8, but the RC zoning is.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aaron Inouye, and I am actually the architectural designer on this project. I just wanted to point out a few features of the programming. Individual entrances that are outward facing help this to be more sensitive to the surrounding neighborhood. The way that we've broken up the massing, both vertically and horizontally, also kind of plays into the smaller homes, the combination of smaller homes and some of the big rectangular structures immediately surrounding this site. It's a tricky site, it's a tricky lot. There have been questions about affordability. Essentially, being able to do more units on a piece of property will bring the affordability down. Now, other features such as high-end building materials that this project currently shows, and the overall design is going to cost a bit more money, and people have said this looks expensive. I think the expensive look is contributes towards the neighborhood and will look good and be something that people will enjoy walking past. And hopefully some of the materials and things can be done in a way that we can keep costs lower and make it affordable. I have 8 children. We just have kids buy a townhouse in Saratoga Springs with a little granddaughter. We wish they'd been able to buy in Provo. Sorry, I didn't mention I live in Vineyard. So a project like this would be very welcoming to many who could live here and have a home, a place to call home. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am Mason Roner. I am a resident of Apollo Apartments. So if you look at this proposed project, that is the crook of the elbow of where I live. And my wife and I recently moved there, and we have fallen in love with the neighborhood of Joaquin. We've fallen in love with the plentiful shade trees and the wonderful community and the quaint houses and the plentiful parking. And I fear that if this was built, it would eliminate all of those in that immediate vicinity. This proposed project has also been presented as a place for families to move and families to live and to own, and heavily implied to be young families. Perhaps they're current like college students or recently graduated young families, for example. And as somebody who lives in an apartment complex full of young families who would kill to own a home of their own, and as somebody who is blessed with a job that pays much higher than the average person of my age group, I can confidently say that this complex does not fit that bill. It would be too expensive for the people that it claims to be marketing towards. So, yeah, with all of the downsides, I'm trying to say that even the benefits are not actually going to be going towards the people it claims to be benefiting. So, thank you.
My name is Alberto Polo, and I live in this property that I own since 1989. I raised in there 4 kids, and we're very happy to be there. Okay, even though things have changed for a while, you know, when we moved, there were lots of people who have little families in there, but right now has changed. Okay, if I say I'm happy, I'll be lying. Okay, that picture over there looks really nice. You know, nice building. It's on the back, and the streets. They forgot to put the cars in there. Maybe I don't see him, but it looks really nice, very tempting. But that's not the reality that we live in a neighborhood. You know, we are extinct, almost just weed out from that neighborhood. And that makes me very sad. Made me very sad because, you know, I'm a landlord, but I'm very responsible for what I have, okay? But there is a lot of people in there that are very irresponsible, that if they don't have any place where cars can park, they just say, well, the street is my parking lot for me. You know, so the streets are full of cars, and I'm really not for this thing at all, because I feel really, you know, like we're out of place. Okay, I don't care how nice the thing is. You know, people will not be able to afford it. Okay, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further commenters, we'll close the public comment and we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion or any follow-up questions. Who wants to get us started? Let's see, ready?
I just have one question. It was mentioned that there's 24% owner occupancy in the neighborhood. Does that include the properties north of 500 North? Or is that meaning just below 500 North in the RC?
Comment in the staff report or in the meeting?
That was the applicant's comment.
Okay.
Do you know
I'm not
the
100%
reality
sure
of that?
on the
So that's the whole neighborhood. So you don't have that data?
I don't have that data on me.
Thanks.
It's in the walking neighborhood plan, that 24%, and it shows you, it shows exactly where that is.
I have a question. I'm not sure who's best suited I'm looking at page 5, it says attachment to the concept plan. It looks to me like there's a 4-foot retaining wall around 2 sides of the property with a 6-foot wall on top of that. It also notes a driveway easement. Can someone, I don't think we have an exhibit that helps us understand that better, but can someone explain is that what we're really seeing or would see in this? Page 5. This is an item 1. Item 1, page 5.
Aaron in a way again, and Dustin could probably chime in here, but there's a requirement for some fencing along certain property lines. There's also an elevation difference between a large apartment complex that surrounds this site to the north and to the east. The way the parking and everything works out, I believe we're trying to retain that to essentially develop this site separate from the surrounding apartment buildings.
So that what it's labeled as driveway easement, is that, so that's the neighbor's
yes.
driveway exists there?
So your secondary question is the driveway easement. The Apollo apartments, which again surround this site, which really make it very difficult to develop as a single family site, is granted to the Apollos, maybe an agreement made long ago, but it's in place, and the current owners of the property want to honor that, and that helps the Apollo apartments greatly. I believe they asked to be able to maintain that. So,
okay, thank you. Any other, Jonathan? John?
Yeah, I have some parking questions. I'm not quite sure who this is for. Staff report indicates that a bare minimum of 26 lots is required, and there's 25 here. As I look at the plan that was just taken down, it looks like the primary parking is in the garages of each of the buildings. And I question if that's practical, if people actually park all their cars in the garages only, and there's 3 spots for guests. And some apartments only have 1 stall. And it just feels like that's not going to happen, that there's going to be a lot of overflow if this were to happen. Is that, am I reading this correctly?
Yeah, so I think they're 0.5 parking stalls short, so we round up, so they're essentially 1 parking stall short from what they're showing. Their parking is in those garages that would be on the access from the backside.
So there's no parking except for the garages and those 3 guests, is that right?
Yeah, then there's those 3 surface stalls for visitors.
Okay.
I could address that briefly too. Jeremy, I'm the general contractor. So with each of those units, there are 8 2-bedroom units that each have a 2-car garage. And then there are 2 1-bedroom units that have a single-car garage, and 2 3-bedroom units that each have 2 single garages. And so although we can't control everything about where people park, we're hoping to create enough parking opportunity for most people to be able to park in the garages and not only on the street, whereas currently there's one driveway on the single family residence where a couple of cars can park in there. They can stack them deep. But other than that, all the parking is on the street. So we're hoping to eliminate most of the parking by moving them into, at least giving the opportunity to get them into the garages and off the street. So.
Okay, a follow-up on that. As I look at is there any concern about access to all those garages? It feels like it's a one at a time. So for talking 25 cars, one at a time in and out, it feels like it's very tight in there. For some of those stalls, is there enough room to turn around and to...
Yeah, we've met the requirements to have enough to be able to have enough space to get in and out of there. So we watch that very closely. It's a little bit tight, but it is enough to be able to get in and out of all of those garages. So.
Okay.
Aaron, in a way, again, just to add to it, I hate tight parking and tight spaces. So we actually went over the minimum requirements for parking. We've also made the garages a little bit deeper than what you would find in this typical product. Most developers just do the minimum garages, and we actually made them extra deep so that there would be places for stuff as well as the vehicles, and try to minimize the parking outside of the garages.
So thank you. So follow up for that. I've seen some garages that the modern pickup trucks actually don't fit in very well. Will a crew cab pickup truck fit in these garages?
Yes, it will. So we're happy to sell you a unit.
Any other questions? All right, deliberations. Thoughts? Where are we at? We need to get to a vote here on both of these items. One is for us and one's a recommendation to city council. So, Joel, what do you think?
I don't know if it's specific to this project, but I have some broader thoughts that kind of come out of the public comment. And the fact that it took us 4 years to get 12 families housed in this neighborhood, like this RC zone has frozen this neighborhood in molasses. And I don't know that that's a productive way to handle planning in a city. I understand there was a fear of high density housing coming in. And so there's this attempt to just essentially a moratorium on anything new in that neighborhood and funnel everything up north to the South Campus region. But we also see projects getting shut down in the South Campus area. We see overly restrictive parking requirements that's making those not pencil out. We're seeing this neighborhood extend almost into our downtown area, which means we're also freezing that downtown. And I don't know, it just strikes me as counterproductive. We have owner occupied units here that would not be, that would further promote this desire for owner occupied housing in the Joaquin neighborhood. So while I recognize that it is against the current general plan, I think it actually meets a lot of the other aspects of the general plan. We're seeing a diversity of housing, housing type. We're seeing, I don't know, I guess my broader philosophical question is the RC zone an appropriate planning tool? And maybe that's a much bigger conversation. But yeah, it feels, I mean, the project in that regard is against the RC zoning. And I agree that we shouldn't be spot zoning and looking at every project and saying, we like this one's pretty enough. This one checks all of our boxes. I think there should be a more productive way that allows for good projects to go forward without this huge legislative process. So those are my broader points.
Cool. We'll see. You awake? Okay. Yeah. There's thoughts? Yeah, Tosh.
I love this architecture. I think it is just awesome. I'm wondering if, it's interesting that the city, it seems like cities that do well have different housing types in different neighborhoods, right? And different financial demographics. So not everyone wants to live in a house with a yard, for example, right? Like I don't. I live in a condo. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. I grew up on a big house with all these acres, and guess how to take care of the yard? I did. And I hated it after 4 or 5 years. I absolutely loathed it. But the architecture is really quite pretty. I like that it's gives a different housing type in that part of the neighborhood as well. I wish we could go from 1 year homeowner occupied required to a little bit longer. I would like that. A year to me is not that long. I would love to see 2 or 3 years, but I guess that's an HOA thing. You put it in the HOA agreement, you could do something like that. I'd love to see it. Then you get more, because once you settle roots down after 2 or 3 years, like I'm here now. After 2 or 3 years, you kind of want to stick around. At least I did, So that's kind of what I'm thinking of. But I'm also wondering about the high density creep into that neighborhood. Is it going to be, if we approve this, then do we approve anything else that comes along after it? Or how do you stop that? But I think it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It really is pretty. I think it'd really help the neighborhood. But yet also, will this redevelop the neighborhood in a good way or a bad way? How would this redevelop the neighborhood? It seems like it's kind of stagnant down there in South Joaquin, when it comes to development and improvements. And I hate to lose trees, but at the same time, you can plant new ones, something I'm thinking about.
I just add, I think it was a month or maybe 2 months ago, we had a group here talking about their HOA rules, including an owner occupancy, but also including I can't remember exactly, but a maximum or minimum kind of rental percentage of those units. And that was kind of, what was it? Only 50% at a time. So it's hard to manage, but those kinds of things scare away investors and make it a little more likely that we'll get the owner occupancy that all of our neighborhoods, not just Joaquin, really do need.
Agreed. I think, and And my parents, before they passed away, they lived in a unit where it was in the HOA covenants, the CCNRs, they had to have their garage had to be able to fit the car in there. That was in the CCNRs. So if we could make that into the CCNR somehow, okay, this is 2 cars have to be able to fit. You know what I mean? That would help me as well. But I think I like the percentages too.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if they could do that somehow.
I think
but-
the development you're referring to, Matt, also had that rule about the garage occupancy that it's not for storage to help with that.
So a number of thoughts. I agree. I think it's from my personal perspective, which I'm not sure matters that much, but I like the architecture. I think it's a beautiful design. I think I like the look of it, even though it doesn't actually fit in the Joaquin neighborhood, as many of the neighbors have said. I respect that as well. I really respect the Joaquin neighborhood plan, the work that was put into it and the intent for it and the design for it. And I'm not inclined to make a major change against the plan. I think if the city that deems that the plan is stagnant, then it's time to relook at the plan and change it. I'd rather have that done first. As I don't like the piecemeal changing here. I don't like increasing the density in the Joaquin neighborhood. I heard the comments about affordability, and this feels like, having it's two sides of that. You want to have nice, expensive looking, well taken care of properties that meets, for a neighbor likes to have a nice property in theirs, but doesn't meet the affordability that we're looking for Provo's for young married couples and things like that. I don't know if any one project will resolve those issues. I do not like the parking situation. I would not approve of something that doesn't meet the bare minimum. In fact, I don't think bare minimum is enough. I don't like a high density residential in this particular block, even though it's there. The intent to block that because of all the problems that it caused. I think that intent was correct and it worked. Maybe the RC zone is a little too restrictive, but I don't want to add high density back there. I think the property is not going to be worth as much if you can't put high density on it, but so be it. When units are displaced, I prefer contractors and developers to put together plans for those displaced residents, and to not have any plan for that hurts a bit. If we were to do something like this, I would not want it in the center of the neighborhood. Transition zones feels more appropriate than in the center of it. I resonate with that comment as well. And if we were to do something like this also, I'd really want to put in plans that we just discussed to require more owner occupied. Just having a year or 5 years, or whatever number we choose, is a very short time in terms of the city. And to make it in such a way that this could be turned over, say, 1 year or 5 years to bachelor housing, and to have all the things associated with that. And just more student housing is not appropriate for this part of the neighborhood, so would not approve it for that reason either.
And I think my head's a little bit the same. Some of those same things resonate with me, John, especially the democratic nature of the plan that's in place feels strange to one off. It's not a solution, but a modification, and that feels a little awkward and clumsy, maybe. Jonathan?
So I'll let Melissa go last because that seems what she wanted. I think, I don't know, I do my pros and cons, right? And pros, it's a very nice building. I agree. It's well done. Great work on it. I think it's a beautiful high-end building. I think the apartment layouts, I like the variety of sizes of homes in it. You've got 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, right? You've got the nice corner units, you've got smaller units. I was wondering about the single car garage, but it makes sense. That's on the 1 bedroom units. I think that was well done. It's a little underparked still, and that is a little bit of a concern for me. It's interesting, as much as I like the architecture, I don't know if this architecture fits this neighborhood. I think something that was more classic or craftsman style would have actually fit into the neighborhood more. And so there's that. I almost think this would fit better somewhere else in the city. On the density, and I really like Joel's comments here, I do think the RC zone is a problem. I think some of our older plans can be a problem, and a rapidly evolving housing market that we have, and the extremely high demand and low supply that we have out where I live in West Provo, people get upset every time a cow pasture is turned into homes, but we just have to accept that increase in density is going to occur, right? And I almost think maybe it should just be kind of a general rule that every neighborhood accepts kind of one step up in density from what they have, right? It's different if it's a high rise next to your house, but just one more might be an interesting way to kind of look at it. And this is kind of one more, and it's on a block that already has apartments and things, so I think that mitigates that. But overall, I guess my biggest concern is the plan that's here. Now, I like a flexible view of the plans because there's no way the plans can foresee every possible idea that could come forward for a development. And sometimes you need to allow that flexibility for that plan to be modified if something really cool comes. But for me, the standard is one, it has to be something that you really didn't see coming. And I think they saw this coming, right? And so it's not a surprise. It's not a cool idea nobody thought of, right? And the bar has to be somewhat high. It's got to have some real benefits, right? And while this has benefits, I'm just a little torn on if it meets that bar of a big enough benefit to set the plan aside, right? Because it's some more homes, kind of like townhomes and apartments that we have around there. Like, it's not a huge thing. And again, not a surprise. This was actually exactly what they were looking at when they made that plan. So overall, I think it's a hard one for me, but I think I would have to lean against this particular one, mainly because I think the style just doesn't fit this neighborhood. Not that I don't love it, but it doesn't fit this neighborhood. And because the plan saw this coming and wasn't there. But that said, I'm afraid I think we need to revisit that plan, because I don't know if that's a viable plan going forward with the demands that we have, including pressures from outside, et cetera, to make sure that we're providing the housing that is demanded in our city.
Ready?
Okay, so the Provo's general plan has two competing interests. One is that of maintaining some single-family neighborhoods and single-family dwellings, along with providing housing, right? And so we're constantly faced with this two competing interests. So is it okay, and should we say that there are some places in the city that should be maintained as historical or legacy neighborhoods? Even Salt Lake does that. And I agree that there should be some step-up places, but this neighborhood in particular has already done that. And that's what this RC plan did, was say, okay, we're going to let the high density be north of 500, which is still part of the neighborhood. With the proximity to BYU, and we know what happened to south of campus, right? With that proximity to BYU, the pressure is intense. And if you continue to erode, then you will lose this entire neighborhood to high density. That is just what will happen. And then we know what happens when we say these are going to be families. Families want yards. Families that are going to have more than one child want a bigger yard, a bigger place, other kids. It just doesn't seem to pan out. So I don't think you're going to get people here long term in these sorts of things. At the heart of this, to me, is more than just a decision about this one parcel of property. It's about public trust. So if the city's general plan and specific neighborhood plans represent a commitment to residents about how growth will occur and how neighborhood character will be preserved, if we disregard this, we send a message to the public that no neighborhood zoning is truly dependable. Families purchase homes as an investment in the neighborhood, and with an expectation that the city's adopted neighborhood plans have meaning. If we spot zone departing from those plans, we weaken trust and create uncertainty, not only for this neighborhood, but for all other neighborhoods in the city. So I feel like while I love this, I love the design, I think it's really great, it belongs in a different place because of the zoning.
Thank you. Other thoughts? Anybody feeling like it's motion time? Joel?
Yeah, maybe this is still just back to that bigger question. And I agree. The general plan is shaped by these neighborhoods. And yeah, there is a large amount of trust placed in that. I also feel like we're coming up so short on housing needs in the city. And so it feels a little bit disingenuous to just always kick the can to another neighborhood and say, love this project, just not here. Love this one, just not here. And I feel like we hear that on a lot of projects. I guess, yeah, if a block of triplexes and small apartments and small townhomes is not the appropriate place for a townhome project, then where is? This strikes me as actually, I mean, architecturally, people can have different opinions, but in terms of the actual units per acre, this doesn't strike me as a huge departure from what's already there. And in the surrounding block. I do agree, spot zoning is not a good practice, but yeah, I feel like we need to maybe be revisiting housing distribution in the city, or how we're going to approach handling the growth and pressures.
Yeah, I would agree with that and echo that. I'm going to vote no because of the spot zoning and the respect for the plans that's there. But I think we need to decide we cannot have plans that do not allow growth. And that's what this plan does. It does not allow growth. And that's just not viable today. I'm sorry to all the people out there that want that. It's not viable. Again, I helped make the West Side plan. There were people that said, keep it farmland forever. That's what they wanted. And we had to go to them and say, I'm sorry, that's just not viable. That does not work. You have to allow growth in your neighborhood. And going forward, I think that should be a rule as we make these neighborhood plans. You have to have a plan for growth. And you can't just say, and I would say also, don't just do the dump it over into this corner of the neighborhood kind of growth. You've got to allow growth in your neighborhood. So again, I respect the plan. And I agree, we need to have that confidence in the plan. And when it's made, we have to say we're going to stick to it. Again, unless there's something that's a complete surprise that's really cool and has huge benefits, which has to be a high bar, we have to stick to it. So that's why I'm going to vote that way. But I also agree with Joel that this is uncovering some real potential issues that we have as a city. And we cannot fight growth in our city. Cities that fight growth do not do well. And unfortunately, I've said it before and I'll say it again, our choice as Provo is to grow or to die, right? To become the ghetto in Utah County. Those are our choices, and we need to accept that.
I think those are some really astute observations, and I love, for those who maybe don't come to these meetings a lot, we have a lot of differing viewpoints and lenses that we look at the world, and that's why this works. I think I'm of the same mindset that because of the democratic approach to the plan, even though it's probably time to revisit that, I'm inclined to honor that. But beyond that, one of I think my main issue or concern about this project itself is that it's taken actually a big leap because it's gone to HDR, and I know it solves some things and it improves some setbacks and some variations and some things that are really healthy, but at the same time, that's actually a fairly large leap.
It is, although density-wise, it's more MDR, right? It's just one setback that they wanted flexibility on, and so
yeah, but
it's an MDR project.
But like we've talked about before, then part of what we're doing is trusting her, not the paperwork, and it's opening up a few doors that I'm concerned about opening up.
Yeah.
And this precedent it sets in that regard.
Right.
So
I was thinking the same thing, that LDR might be an easier step for me than go from RC to HDR.
For sure.
Also, just one other note, by my count, we had 9 people that were living in Provo that came and spoke to us just right now. 8 of those 9 were against the project. We had 5 people that did not live in Provo, and they were all for the project. Just some numbers to think about.
are we ready for a motion?
One is the concept plan, right? So we're actually
number 1 is a
approving or
concept
denying.
plan that we will vote to approve or deny. And number 2 is the zone map amendment that we are making a recommendation to city council, municipal council.
Should be the other order.
Used to be the other way. They switched it on us.
I'll make a motion.
Yep.
Okay. I move that we deny the proposed concept plan for the 12 new townhome units at approximately 313 East, 200 North, because they do not fit with the current zone.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We'll start voting with Joel.
Nay.
Aye.
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 Nay.
So that's a
4 to 2.
4 to 2 in favor of denial. So that motion passes 4-2. Did I do that right, Bill? Thank you. All right, item 2. Do we have a motion on item 2?
So I'll make a motion.
Thanks, John.
I move that we recommend denial to the city council for the proposed zone change because the proposal is not consistent with the general plan.
Second.
Thanks, Melissa. Joel, you want to start voting?
Aye.
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 So that motion to recommend denial passes 6-0. Thank you. And I would add, just for the record, that I think we all agree that the RC zone needs some attention and discussion. So I hope the city will, I don't know how that means or the timing. I know there's lots going on, but.
So it depends on what the goals of the city are. In 2004, when the RC zone was adopted, the goal of the zone was to protect neighborhoods. You could redevelop your property all you wanted, as long as you didn't increase the density that was there in 2004. Now, it's been over 20 years since that thinking was laid out there and put into zoning. So perhaps it is time to rethink that, but that's where that came from.
Yeah.
And then
I think we respect that. I think we appreciate that was, but maybe it's time to at least have a public meeting or comment or a discussion about how to proceed or if it's still the right answer.
There are people in this room who are very involved in the creation of the Joaquin plan, and I was the planner assigned on that, or one of them. And when we went through that process 10 years ago, I was very scared that the citizens might try to unwind the South Campus Area Master Plan that you heard referred to, the SCAMP plan. That plan basically said 500 north and north, redevelop, put higher density, go crazy. I was afraid when we went through the Joaquin plan process that neighbors would try to wind that back and try to claw that back, and they didn't. They stuck to that. And so the Joaquin neighborhood has allowed for a lot of new housing. It's just supposed to be north of 500 and even north of 800. If you look at our zoning map, we've already zoned property for higher density, even north of 800. So I think the neighborhood was generous and well-meaning in what they came up with. Is it time for us to relook at it? Perhaps it is. And I'm sure people in this room would like to be involved in that process. But anyway, that's just some context and history.
Well, that's valuable, Bill. Any programs that the city already has in place to help existing homeowners who maybe are feeling like, hey, I can't change it, but I can't afford to upkeep it or to make some improvements? Do we have anything like that in Provo that would support them? I know some cities have that kind of thing, or maybe it's a county thing, but that's something we could also maybe look at. How do we help an existing homeowner who wishes they could do more to their property, but just doesn't have the means to do it?
Yeah, so much of all of the Joaquin neighborhood is in the East Central Historic District. So a good majority of the homes and properties in there can qualify for tax credits for rehabilitating and taking care of those properties.
And is that something they apply, like come to see somebody like you in the department, or is there?
Yeah, they can start with us in planning, and we can, so we'd work with the State Historic Preservation Office. They handle those tax credits.
Okay.
So yeah, there's programs like that.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Dustin. Thanks, Bill. For those who came for items 1 and 2, you are welcome to stick around. We're going to have lots of fun. But if you are done with us, it's totally fine if you want to sneak out and have conversations in the hallway. Thank you for attending and being part of the process. Okay, we will proceed to items 3, 4, and 5. We're going to read in together and treat those as one, and then we'll vote individually on those. So I'll read those. Item 3, Eric Langvardt. I apologize. Eric, are you Eric? Did I say that name right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Eric Langvardt requests an amendment to the general plan map to change the classification from industrial to mixed use for 21.6 acres of land as part of the mixed use development plan located approximately at 3657 South Sierra Vista Way, Spring Creek neighborhood. Item 4, Eric Langvardt requests a land or a zone map amendment from the PIC Planned Industrial Commercial Zone to the MDR and CG Zones for 21.6 acres of land as part of a mixed-use development plan located approximately at 3657 South Sierra Vista Way, Spring Creek neighborhood. And item 5, Eric Langvardt requests concept plan approval for a mixed-use development containing 90 condos, 168 townhomes, and approximately 10,000 square feet of commercial space over 21.6 acres in proposed MDR and CG zones located approximately at 3657 South Sierra Vista Way, Spring Creek neighborhood. So Aaron is our city staff planner on this one. So we'll start with Aaron and proceed as we did on the previous item.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for reading all that in at once. It's a lot. So I have 3 slides. I'm going to spend most of my time on the 3rd slide. The first slide, there's kind of an order of what's going on here. The first request is to amend the general plan map. You could see that the area that they're looking to redevelop is all within the industrial general plan designation. So to move forward with their plan, they're wanting to change that to the mixed use designation as there are commercial and residential elements within their plan. The next part of that, if the general plan can be amended, is to amend the zone map. So again, the entire area out here in Spring Creek, the southeast corner of our city, is planned industrial commercial zone. So it gets you a lot of what you're seeing on the map, the large white rooftops. The zones that they're requesting are the general commercial zone for their retail uses on the south end as they flow into Springville, and then the medium density residential zone for the apartments and townhomes to the north. So all of that is to get to this. This is the development plan, the concept plan for how they want to develop. This is a project that's bigger than just this part of Provo. It's extending up from North Springville as kind of a redeveloped, imagine redeveloped corridor through this area. The plan itself is showing 90 condominiums. Those are the brown. Then the yellow and purple are 168 townhomes. And you can see the 2 red squares that are within the Provo boundary. On that map on the right, you see that dotted black line. And that is the city boundary. So we have 2 of the retail or food establishments within our city borders with this plan, and the rest would be in Springville. So it's kind of an overall summary of the project. There's some things that would have to happen in the future, as noted in your staff report. They would have to continue to work with UDOT for the access into the site because both their south border and their east border are UDOT roads. So they'd have to work through that. You can see in the second page of the staff report, I refer to a cooperation agreement between Provo and Springville. That is something that we're continuing to work on. Our economic development division is working with Saratoga and trying to find a plan there that will work for both cities. So we can have.
You said benefit. Saratoga. I think you meant
Springville.
Springville. Right?
Thank you. So there'd be tax benefit to both cities. There's other elements in the staff report indicated that we aren't sure if they meet or could meet. There's confidence with the amount of land and the densities that they're looking at, that these things could be taken care of in the project plan. Things like landscaping and design standards aren't typically shown in the concept plan. So that's why those elements aren't marked as complied or complies in the staff report, because those are things that would come in the project plan in the future if the zoning was to be given. The final element I wanted to talk about is on page 5 of your staff report. This is the applicants and myself kind of went back and forth on what this actually means. The South State Street design corridor requires a minimum or a maximum setback for buildings. The one building that falls short of that is that retail building on the southeast corner of the Provo part of the development plan. Let me highlight that actually. There we go. So that building right there. Our development services is saying this building needs to be within that 10 to 20 foot range from South State Street to comply with the design corridor. Their interpretation is saying that it does not. So that is one question for the Planning Commission to address as they make their motions, is whether that applies or not.
Can you clarify what exactly you said? I
Yes.
think page 5.
Yes, page 5 of the item
five.
5 staff report on the very bottom, other considerations.
Oh,
To give some more context on that, here's what is being debated there. So these are sections of that South State Street design corridor. I've highlighted kind of the purpose and objective there. The applicability is the part that's in debate, and then the standard is on the right side of your screen. So it has been staff's interpretation that any development within 100 feet of South State Street needs to comply with these standards. The applicant will say that the building is set back further than 100 feet from State Street, so that standard shouldn't apply. So we would love to have your interpretation of that as this moves forward.
okay. So clarify that for us. So you're saying that the on the right here is the code that you want us to interpret.
Yes, so this is the standard that we say they're not meeting. Building shall be located a minimum of 10 feet, but no more than 20 feet from the front or side property lines. All areas between the front street side yard to State Street have to be landscaped as follows, and it goes on to indicate different things to do there. The applicability standard over here is what's in debate.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So practically, what's the implication of them not meeting that standard?
If they were not to meet that standard, if it was interpreted that this is applicable, then when they come back for project plan, they would have to be within 10 or 20 feet.
My question was different. It was practically, why is that standard exist and what does it matter? Help me understand, weigh the pros and cons of holding their feet to the fire on this or not.
Well, it's the code. So it's the rule it's a regulation of the city that we apply.
Right. So why? Why is it there and why is it there for this and what's the benefit?
Why do we want it? Why do we want a building?
Why do we want buildings
so close to
adjacent to South State Street is what you're asking, John?
In this particular, yes.
It's just planning theory that having buildings on the street is a much better design than having parking lots against the street.
And the reasons for that?
We don't need to get into the whys and the whats. This is the code and we just need your help in interpreting it.
Well, one reason is simply walkability.
It's walkability on State Street. Okay.
That's certainly one of the factors, but we have heard for years and years and years complaints about the look of South State Street. And I think the applicants would agree. South State Street isn't good to look at, right? It's pretty bad. Those design standards for the corridor were written to try to improve the aesthetic as development takes place. And having parking lots between the street and the building, what's aesthetic about that? What's inviting to a pedestrian about that? What feels safe to a pedestrian about that? All of those were reasons why we did what we did.
John, if you look at the bullet points above the highlighted section, that can give you some additional listing.
Thank you.
And can I just clarify? So the applicant says that the building that they have on their drawing is greater than 100 feet away from State Street.
They're citing as the building is 100 feet away. We're saying we have interpreted that as any property within 100 feet of State Street. Any
Or new
development within 100
construction in
feet.
general, right?
Hmm?
New construction in general,
Yeah,
right?
new
Which could include a
construction,
parking lot,
redevelopment
for
within-
example.
Within 100 feet of State Street. Yeah. So that's just one small element. I don't want to spend too much time on that.
But you want us to help interpret.
I want
that.
to get the
Okay.
Plan Commission's interpretation of that as this group moves forward. It'd be helpful for them to understand if they need to redesign or not.
Okay.
If the council was to give them zone.
So I've made a note of my friends here on the commission. Let's make sure we come back to that and we'll address that as we get a little more information and detail. Anything else you wanted to
No,
present? right now?
that is the summary unless you have any questions for me.
Yeah.
Could you talk about parking for a minute?
Yes. Yes, they are meeting the parking standard and plus some. So they're required with their bedroom counts for all the different residential units, they would be required 582 off-street parking stalls. And they have proposed 659 on this concept plan. That's not counting any of the on-street stalls that they're showing with the little parallel striping through the middle of the project.
Is that for just the residential parts or is that for the entire project? Are they using any of the parking lots for the retail as part of that?
That's just for the residential. That's the residential count. The retail uses are indicated in your staff report on the following page. Let me get to those numbers because I don't remember those as well. Building G would require 34 stalls. Building H would require 60 stalls for a total of 94. They're proposed, some of these kind of flow into Springville, but they definitely meet the parking standard for the Provo side of retail.
Okay, thank you. Can you, if I ask some questions?
Please.
Can you talk a little bit about the co-op agreement because, and what's the general concepts you're looking at here?
Just looking at tax sharing cooperation agreement. That's all the detail that we're prepared to share on that right now.
Okay, and would the intent be that to consider the entire concept as one unit and to split it accordingly based on square footage?
Like I said, that's all the detail I have on it.
All the
Right now.
detail.
I can clarify that a little bit, or if the developers want to also, when they get up, that'd be fine. The north property in Provo is industrial now. When this discussion very first started to look at, for Provo to consider putting residential out there, there was a lot of discussion about mixed use development, walkability, and we loved all those buzzwords. But we made it clear from the very beginning that if primarily the commercial is going in Springville and the residential is going in Provo, the commercial is a tax asset to Springville, and the residential is a tax liability to Provo. So there needed to be some equitable sharing of sales tax dollars to make this worthwhile for Provo to pursue this. So the developers have been working with our economic development director, and they've been working on making sure that that happens. And that'll all be discussed with city council when it gets there. So that's really not within the purview of this planning commission, but that's the background and what the thinking was.
Yeah, thank you. My concern is, of course, giving away good industrial space for the potential tax benefit for something that's a liability. Completely agree with that. Yeah.
And Bill, maybe you can speak, or whoever, how Springville is. Are they excited about this? Like, how does this fit with their?
I'll let the applicants.
dreams? We'll let that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll let them prefer that.
Other questions right now for Aaron, or should we save them for after the applicant?
And did you say the property north is industrial, but do we know who owns it or what the intention is with that property?
No, not at this point.
The Clyde companies have purchased it by now, right? Haven't you guys purchased what's in this? Hasn't, you haven't? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not.
Sorry, one other question then. So in my experience, when residential shows up next to industrial, it makes the industrial nervous. Do we have a pretty good sentiment or an idea of what the sentiment of the industrial neighbors are to this?
I was surprised that we didn't get any comment or any emails, any calls from any of those industrial landowners, or some of them have developed, but we didn't receive contact from any of them, so I can address that.
Okay. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah.
You can sit down. We'll bring you back up, I'm sure, later. All right, we have the applicant, or a few representatives from the applicant. You'll have 15 minutes. Please start with your name and city of residence. But please continue on after whatever you want to add to what Aaron was talking about.
Awesome. He covered a lot of my talking points, so I'll definitely not need 15 minutes. Thank you for the time tonight. Really appreciate it. My name is Adam Osler. I live in Highland, Utah. Some things that Aaron hit on that I'd love to reiterate to start is really, I guess, I'm sorry. Let me multitask. Again, you're not going to see anything new. It's what Aaron really walked through. But really what we're trying to do here is much bigger than just the piece that we're talking about tonight. What we're focused on is we have about 50 acres between Provo and Springville. Clyde Companies has been around for 100 years, this is our 100th year in business. And as part of that, we're coming home to Springville and Provo. We're building currently just south of this retail project along 1400 North. We're currently building our company headquarters. So that's under construction. Footings and foundations are in. That'll be about 130,000 square feet of office for hundreds of Clyde employees. As part of that, this is really meant to be a give back to Springville, and Provo. So everything I work on day to day, it's meant to be market returns, focused on highest and best use. This is really a different mandate. This is really Clyde companies giving back to the area and trying to create an amenity for Clyde employees, for Clyde family members, but more importantly for tonight, Provo and Springville residents. And this is really, you'll see some of these elements as we talk through it, but this is the way we're thinking about it. Some things Aaron already hit on, like the parking. We'll talk about the parks and open space. This is really meant to be kind of a crown jewel of Clyde companies and not meant to be, again, highest and best use, so to speak, for this area. Some of the amenities I'll highlight, and some of this, I guess, is context, especially on the Springville side. But as you can see, some of these amenities in the retail, I'll highlight it with kind of that, I don't know what shape we want to call it, but right in the center there of all that retail. That is yes, thank you. That is the outdoor ice skating rink that'll be used during the winter. And then in the summer months, that'll turn into a rollerblading, roller skating effort. And we're also working on programming elements to make this kind of an activated space. So it's not just a, retail corridor that's not a destination, but that it's really more than that. The other things are, yes, we have lots of lawn space in there as well. That's that green kind of within the retail. That's really going to be meeting space, lawn space for events, other things of that nature. Some other things I'll highlight as we dig into the Provo side of this, kind of along, let me see if I can figure out how to use this. Yeah, there we go. So this right here is what we're calling an art walk. And there's some slope, some topography to this site. And so there'll be a retaining kind of along Mountain Vista Parkway along there, kind of this right here. And so this is really connectivity, I think, is a big thing that we're focused on as part of this development, is really that art walk part of it. We also have lots of parks. As you can see, we have a neighborhood park, we have a corner park, and as well as a triangle park within the residential. In fact, you can see in the items, I think it's in item 5, but yeah, 43% of our site is open in park space. Parking's, but I'll reiterate, is important to us. We want to make this site usable for residents, not just, usable for us. So with retail, we've got 146 parking spots dedicated to this, 94 being the requirement, and the residential 659 with 582 being the requirement there. The interlocal tax agreement, like we said, kind of, I guess some context on that is when we first really, thought of this effort, we met with both Provo and Springville, including city mayors and city staff. And basically, we kind of wanted to ask the question of, well, we get where both cities are coming from, absolutely, and we want to make this work for everybody. And so what we said is, look, do you want us to design this really around the retail being split between the cities, or do you guys want to work to make the best site possible and come up with an interlocal tax agreement? And both cities really agreed that the latter was a better option of working together to make the site the best use possible. And then, yes, we can figure out the taxes as part of that. So that's very much in the works. And I know Provo and Springville have been working hard on that. So thank you. Some other things I noted, just for context, I guess some of your questions, just getting ahead a little bit. Who owns the other parcels? Again, just to the north of this residential, that's currently owned by Tom Stewart. The open space to the west is currently owned by BYU. The other things you mentioned is, yeah, kind of the how is Springville feeling about this? We've already gone through this process with them, so this is all by right at this point. So they're very excited about it. They're been very helpful for us and kind of understand what we're trying to accomplish here. So again, just want to say thanks again for the time tonight. I guess, sorry, one last note. This is stuff Tosh and John, you guys brought up. As part of this, I know deed restriction is going to come up. Again, we're putting our money where our mouth is on this. We want a 2-year deed restriction on every housing unit. Our HOA is going to have a 25% maximum rental within the HOA. We want owner occupiers here. We want this to be a real community, not just a subdivision. So that's really our goal as part of this. So anyway, I'll stop there, and thank you again for the time.
Thank you. And remember your name, Austin?
Adam.
Yep.
Sorry.
Thanks, Adam.
Yep. Thank you.
I think we're all going to have some questions. Do you think you have one you want to ask now, or should we wait until after public comment? Okay, let's do public comment. I don't know that we have much, but let's go ahead and open it for public comment. Do we have a neighborhood district chair here? No. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to comment? I'm really only looking at one face that I don't really recognize, so no, it's all good. It's all good. Last meeting we were here until 11, so we're happy to finish early. Okay. So we will close the public comment, not having any. And Sandy, I don't think we had any letter, anything communicated. Okay. So let's come back and discuss and ask questions. I do have one question that I'd love to start with, and I think, Aaron, this is probably for you. But from the city's perspective, I just don't understand the tax benefits of the industrial area. There's clearly a trade-off of, I'll say, dismantling some of the industrial zone to replace it with what I would say is a pretty wonderful project and healthy and well thought out. But what's the city's perspective on the cost benefit analysis of industrial versus commercial versus residential? Can you help us understand a little bit more of that?
Yeah, obviously we'd get more tax benefit from industrial or commercial. Property tax from residential is something, but it's not comparable to those other two. So that is the main reason that we've been working so hard on making sure that's an element of the rezone request, and should have that to a point where the council can decide if that's worth it or not when it gets to them.
Okay. And back to my previous or earlier question, I've been involved with these things on the builder side, and the industrial can get very the existing industrial can get very uppity about getting pushed out, because that's a natural. Once you have all these people living here, they start going, wait, there's some big trucks and their air brakes aren't off, and what's going, like, they're coming in at all hours of the day and night. How do we protect the existing industrial? Are there things that have already come to mind?
There's two elements of that. One is you can't move to the nuisance. So if you rent or buy there, you deal with it. So that's law. That's been decided by the Supreme Court. There's in the city code, there's transitionary standards. So once those industrial pads, if they choose to develop the adjacent industrial pads, they will have to have some transitionary standards with increased setbacks or buffers, walls, fences, vegetation on the edges against this project, against any residential. Those are my responses for that concern. Like I said, we haven't had any of them come out to us and say, why are you letting this move forward? So
on that note, though, there's a couple very large logistic companies, et cetera, right across the street from some of this. How come there's not transitionary standards coming into effect there?
Where?
So if you go to the aerial view, just to the west of this, I think Ryder's there, like right there, like it's even covering up half of a building. That's how close it is. This one up in the corner is pretty close.
This here?
Yeah.
Because this wasn't residentially zoned, so they didn't have to do any sort of transitionary.
Why don't the residential zones have to do a transition standard coming in?
That's just not the way
It's just not the rule.
Yeah.
Because I think one of my concerns is that, since we're in the discussion part, is that sure, on paper, that's the rule, that you came second, so you don't get to complain. That doesn't mean people don't complain.
Right, of course.
And Stouffer's is just off the map here. There's some large companies here, some of them logistics. I think there's probably some pretty heavy traffic, truck traffic, et cetera. And there's no other residential neighbors. It's kind of on a bubble, maybe into Springville, but that's I-89/State Street separating them. Yeah. So it's walkable and it's well designed internally, but I'm worried about what's around it.
Periphery.
Right. So I just think it's interesting that in industrial building, if residential comes, they don't have to do a transition standard, but if it was the opposite, they would.
Yeah.
Right. That's interesting.
Other thoughts, comments? And maybe for the benefit of our applicants, like, thank you for thinking of your communities and trying to give back. We just now need to ferret out some details and get to the point of emotion. But so don't misconstrue any thank you. Like, I want to say thank you. But Tosh, you have a thought or question?
No, I was just curious why Because in Northeast Provo, Provo and Orem had an issue with the housing, and I guess the housing wanted to be in one city and not two. So Provo bought it or traded Orem with that land. But
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, some annexation trading.
Yeah, that.
Yes.
So I'm wondering why this isn't happening here with this plot. Like, it's not just going, why is it going to two different cities and not just one city? And
I assume that goes back to the co-op that Springville wants the benefit too. If they give
Okay.
it away, they're going to leave money on the table.
Oh, okay. Just curious.
It is true though, because it's an odd little cutout,
Yes.
right? Like just
yeah.
this little square is Springville and the rest is
Yeah.
Provo.
We want them. No, I just. John, you had a question or
I
comment?
had some questions for the applicant. I appreciate the.
Adam, if you want to come back to the microphone.
I appreciate the 25% maximum rental. I think that's great. And the 2-year deed restriction, I think that's great as well. I'm wondering about affordable housing units. What's your policy with affordable housing? Will these be in the affordable category? What percent would that be?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, like I said, we're not capital A affordable on this in terms of, rents, government subsidized housing. Yes, I mean, our price point again is really to provide it's a mix. It's really going to be higher quality finishes than what you see for, normal townhomes around here, but still at a price point that people can afford. And so again, in terms of percentage of AMI, don't have an answer for that at the moment.
So there's no explicit commitment to make any, because you're not falling into the government requirement, you're not making any commitment to the city that a certain percent of these would be considered affordable, right?
Correct. And when you say affordable, just to be clear, it's yes, government subsidized. Affordable, correct? Not price point affordable.
I was thinking more price point affordable.
Okay.
But
Yeah. So I mean,
to match the government numbers, but price point affordable, because that's one of the concerns of the city of Provo. One of the issues in our plan is to encourage more affordable housing.
Mhm.
If you heard the other conversation, there's many people that were looking to have some affordable housing, and there's
Yep.
not much. And so this feels like an opportunity to do some of that where others
Exactly.
have not. And so we'd strongly encourage, if there's some way to have some affordable home, townhome ownership, whatever it is, so to consider that. And a commitment from your part would be wonderful in something like that.
Excellent. No, that's great. Thank you, John.
You want to follow up to that?
No, I was just going to ask about the condos. Are they looking at stacked housing, like 5/2, 4/2, 4/1?
Yeah, it's really 3-story product. What we're
Okay.
considering with surface parking.
Okay, just curious.
Yep. Yeah, we've got one earmarked for you.
John, you had some others, I think.
My other follow-up question is, always in these developments, it seems as if there is overflow parking on the street. Do you anticipate that happening here? Is that going to be permitted, allowable?
Yes. So again, yeah, we're obviously, again, there's the way that we look at it is, yes, what's the minimum requirement from the city? I think the more important lens we're looking at this from this is what end users want and what's applicable. So that's really what we're looking at it through. So yes, we have that with the parking that we've talked about. Additionally, you can probably, this image is probably a little small, but you can see additional 48 stalls on that middle road going east and west, just north of the retail. And I believe it's 38 stalls going
Oh,
north
okay. I
and
see.
south.
I missed those. Those are, okay. Street parking.
Yeah.
Is that, how wide is that street there? North-South Street and the east-west one?
66 foot.
Oh, so it's plenty wide. Those are,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Yes.
The other question was on the State Street itself. How walkable will be State Street in this development?
Yes, it's a great question. I mean, to be frank, what we're trying to do is really push people into the site, into the amenities.
Mhm.
And so we're thinking about also how to connect this to our company headquarters across the street. And so you can see there's two, as part of our traffic study, there's two lights that we need to put in as part of this. But yes, kind of connectivity to State Street. We don't imagine a lot of people walking along State Street. That's not our goal of the project. It's really to push people into the project. And so, yes, it'll be definitely walkable. I mean, like Aaron said, from a landscaping perspective, we have very high standards for that. You'll see that with our company headquarters. We want that to, kind of be mimicked in this development as well. But, our end goal is really, you can see with the amenities and the walk spaces and everything, we're really trying to, yes, pull people from State Street into and from Sierra Vista into the development.
But State Street and Sierra Vista will also be walkable. I see. Are those
Yes.
sidewalks?
Yes.
That speaks a little bit to the question that we were asked about to give our opinion on if that retail establishment labeled G, if that should be close to State Street or not, based on walkability and visibility for the street, right? So I think that plays into walkability in all the areas, not just the center where you're pushing them. Another question, do you have any consideration for bicycles in this area?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably better. Yeah, Eric. Is that okay if Eric addresses it?
Good evening, Eric Langvardt Design Group. I'm the land planner and landscape architect on the project. So we will have bicycle parking scattered throughout the project. Bicycle parking, is that what you're referring to?
I was thinking
Or just
that and both bicycle parking and bike
movement?
lanes, yeah, movement.
Yeah, so we have multiple ways to get in and out of the entire project. You can see on every street, the 66-foot right of way. It's Provo City standard for parking on both sides, but then we have a great park strip and then sidewalks outside of that. And then within the project as well, you can move through the open spaces in multiple ways. And so, yeah, walkability, connectivity, access to the open spaces, all of those things for walkers, bikers, hikers, whatever type of person wants to use it outside of their car, we think we've accommodated.
Okay, thank you. This follow on with that, maybe it is the amenities. Yeah, you mentioned the 3 parks. Are you considering other amenities besides the parks and the walkways and the art walk?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll have nodes throughout. The whole idea is for somebody to be able to move from their home to the commercial core and then back out to the street and then up to a park. And along those routes, we'll have benches and one of the concepts is to have moments that, break up that 5-minute walk or whatever. And it might be as simple as a couple flat benches that are looking at, a statue of Adam, possibly. But
we get the appeal there, yes.
Yeah. But seriously, and I think that's the difference with what the Clyde Companies is doing here is their focus on those kind of things is going above and beyond a traditional paseo that everybody walks out. And you can see the thought that we've put into, utilizing that grade change at the end of the art walk. The vision is to have that be, we needed a retaining wall or we needed uphill townhouse units that take up that grade. Well, we went with the retaining wall route so that you hit the terminus of that art walk and maybe these guys commission, 8 or 10 artists to come in and you see it in a lot of cities, but paint murals. And so all of a sudden it becomes a destination after you've had a great meal, in building G to go do the art walk. And so it really is a lot of subtle things, but we'll also have, a traditional playground and shade pavilions and things for the residential users, but we also are trying to blend the commercial users and those residential users through that
Okay.
system.
I think that's wonderful. Thank you. A couple more things. Thought of a dog park. A lot of residents now have animals. You thought of a dog park there?
There's an opportunity for it. I'm sort of, and I have a dog and actually it's funny because she hates dog parks. She's the most antisocial lab I've ever seen. In a more dense space like this, it becomes a little bit difficult just because of the wear and tear that it takes. But I think that what I would say, I'll speak for Adam, is that, we'll take that into consideration. We are developing the amenities and those I think will evolve. And so, we're starting with what we think is a good core mix. But, having that contemplated, I think is.
Suggestion. I know the dogs are want to go somewhere. Many residents will have dogs. So considering that.
You're right. Because they're going to go out and they're going to use the park strip or they're going to use whatever, you see it in bigger cities. They go and, they'll go on the lamp posts. They don't care. They have to
So
go.
just thinking and planning for that might be useful.
Yeah. Good thought.
We have not contemplated this many citizens in this part of the city. So I'm wondering about schools. Any kind of discussion about school needs or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to Provo and Springville both, and there's no urgent need on. There's capacity essentially. So yes, that was something we addressed early and head on because anyway.
Okay, thanks. My other question was public transit. What public transit is there? Is there a plan for additional public transit at this location here? Do you know?
You're talking buses, things of that. That's stuff we're actively working on currently, but we haven't addressed those head on yet. I mean, we're working with UDOT on quite a few things right now, And once we get that nailed down, then we'll really, address those points. But it's important for us as well, especially with our headquarters going across the street.
Exactly. And then my last question, on this was water usage. Any concern with these all this lawn and then the residents with water usage?
Yeah, no concern there.
Okay. That's really a city of Provo question, right? But
oh yeah, I guess, yeah. Go ahead.
I want to speak to that just really quickly because the maps may be a little misleading. What's green is open space. What's dark green might be lawn, but it's the park spaces. So those areas are pretty confined. The rest of the landscape, we will go low water use. We want it to look nice, but it'll be drip. So we're not just gonna put lawn out there. And so the green is a little misleading. It's more about the open space representation. And I think Aaron mentioned we'll come back with, detailed landscape.
Melissa?
I just wondered if you had to put the building closer to to State Street, could you do that? Have you thought about how you would rearrange if the interpretation is that, yeah, you need to be closer? Could you move building E up? Switch the parking lot and building E?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's really, so yes, the short answer is we could. Why we're proposing not to is Eric can talk through our interpretation of the code and the way we're looking at it. The second thing is, again, we're trying to really create a destination in the core of this. And so if you move that building G essentially to the road and then move the parking to the west, it's going to just butt up against that walkway. That parking is going to butt up against that walkway. So it's not going to really accomplish, again, with what we're trying to do with connectivity and that lawn amenity in particular right there. To answer your question.
Yeah, except I think you could rearrange those buildings a little bit, D and E, and still create a corridor and push that parking into a different spot and get closer to the road. Just saying.
No, thank you.
Cool. I have a couple questions. One coming back to the public transit. So I was actually biking down State Street last night and I saw where the bus stop drops off and there's no sidewalk for about a mile. I don't know where this poor guy was having to walk to, but he got off there and just walked down State Street. And seeing this kind of density, I'd be pretty concerned to have this, townhomes tend to own less cars than single family homes. You're going to have people accessing public transit. So I would hope there'd be some kind of bus shelter or something and like proper sidewalk and, that kind of amenity. Sid, you're talking to UDOT right now. Are you guys talking about the transit aspects of it as well? Like how is that 850 route being serviced? Are there improvements for that as well?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. We're controlling what we can control essentially, which is this development. And so, yeah, we're active. You can see there, we've got sidewalk all along this. Mm-hmm. And then, yes, we're working with, like you said, transit and UDOT and things on, potentially extending that as well. So those are active conversations and we're focused on it. Go ahead.
I just wanted to touch on that real quick. Goal is that we've really focused on, it's like this middle button. Now I messed it up. All right, I'm just going to talk through it. We've really focused on the pedestrian access to Main Street and State Street. And you can see that there are points where even in the townhome development, you can see that the open space opens up. So we've created great opportunities for a transit stop that everybody in the community can walk through these open spaces and get to. We're not walling it off. Maybe there's one down there where the word Main is, or you can see the commercial pedestrian corridor hits Main Street, hits State Street at that sidewalk. And then we've also got another one up there in the middle of the townhomes, and you can see one up in the middle of the condos that are L-shaped. So boiling it down to, look, UDOT, we're giving you the opportunity to create these spots for our community to leave on a bus or come back, and also for the community members to access the commercial that way. But you know how UDOT is. We're trying really hard, and our engineers here, and he had a lot of hair when he started his career, but I think sorry, Chef. Anyway, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. One other or two other questions, I guess. So this is, maybe close to or on the site of the old Ironton, was it slag or coke? It was a processing plant, right? Like, are there remediation efforts needed to put residential here? I mean, industrial to residential is a pretty big change.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is, we're really digging into that. And so obviously I mean, it's obviously not going to get approved if we don't do that. And so we're addressing those head on. And so we're actively working through that.
Okay. And then I guess the last question, this strikes me as a really awesome development. And I love the mixed use. I love the walkability. But it feels very internally coherent and not very externally coherent. It feels very detached from the surrounding land use. You're surrounded by an industrial park. You're on State Street, which is just kind of a wide open boulevard. I mean, are there further plans for this style of development to work its way north? I mean, what's the vision here, or is this as far as you all have looked? And yeah, I guess help me see how this fits into a broader vision for State Street as a gateway into Springville and Provo.
Yeah, I mean, to be frank, we'd love to work on, what you can see is open space there with what BYU currently owns and Tom Stewart owns. And so, we do not control those pieces today, but I mean, just, I don't know, it's maybe helpful context, but really the business we're in on Clyde Capital Group, which is the real estate development arm of Clyde Companies, is master plan communities. So if you know Desert Color down in St. George, that's our project down there. And so we love buying and developing, massive projects to really help it feel cohesive. And so our kind of motto and the thing we live to is, higher standard development. So what you're describing is, I mean, we would love to do. Again, it's ultimately going to be, we don't own those parcels today, but I mean, I guess the other thing is that's not on here is the green field out to the right of the in Springville. That's a McDonald's there and a 7-Eleven. We currently own those as well. And those would be, another, about 80 housing units that direction as well. And so, again, then it starts to feel like more of a corner as opposed to, what you're describing, which I totally agree with. So we're trying to accomplish that.
Is that something you currently have plans for? You're
we're
proposing
working,
Springville right
we own
now?
those. Yeah. Okay. Those are by rights. We're working on designing those with Springville.
Could you point to those on this map?
Yes, that
Is that
is
southeast corner, right?
That corner right there. Okay.
Yep. So it's those two. Yeah. So those, that's thank you. That's the McDonald's and the 7-Eleven. So it's really this piece here that we own today. And then this here. So that's what we're
And
at.
again, those are 80 single family homes, 80 townhomes.
Townhomes as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Adam, can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yes, of course.
So you're a big company, you're an established company, right? You're local. You have some strategy for getting your employees into these homes?
Like no bias, if that's there's no preferential treatment in that regard. So it's really, we're trying to.
I'm not sure I have a notion of what's right or wrong. I'm just
It's a
curious.
great question. I mean, I'd be asking it if I were in your shoes too.
Like
No,
you
there's
guys-
no corporate, housing is not the goal here.
Okay. And then from your perspective, if this keeps going down the road here a little bit and some of the industrial neighbors start chiming in with frustration, any thoughts on how you accomplish kind of that good neighbor kind of approach to keeping them in business and happy and not running over your people or your people complaining to the city so much that we're sad we approved something?
It's a great question. We've thought about it a lot because it is a unique spot for this. So, I mean, we know a lot of these property owners, to be frank. And so it's maybe why you haven't heard negative comments on this. The other thing is, what else was I going to mention? We think this is actually additive to the whole area as opposed to, takes away from the area. And so we've talked to some of the property owners there that feel the same way. So we're trying again, kind of create this as a destination as opposed to industrial, which don't get me wrong, we're industrial developers too. So we get industrial, but again, just a little different than what we're trying to do here.
Well, then maybe just a recommendation, because there's a lot of flexibility and details to hash out. And then I have a few questions for Eric, but it seems to me that there are a few key points that look like pretty clear pinch points. So on the map we're looking at, there's two buildings really close to 3596, right? And like maybe there's some way of shifting
Talking about
the,
that?
the, i- yeah, the idea about the kind of buffer that will, if industrial shows up next to this, they have to buffer.
Mhm.
But it strikes me that it's appropriate, and that could be plant big trees and a lot of them. And
Yeah.
right, but
Go ahead.
but it seems to me like that point in particular is a little close. And if those have big trucks coming out of those drives, that maybe is a kind of problem area. But I would
Mhm.
encourage you to keep thinking hard about how you be the good neighbor for the existing, and since the new
Yeah.
industrial is going to have to be good neighbors to you.
I know the opposite of the usual, but yes,
Yeah.
totally agree with you.
Okay. And I think my next questions are for Eric. So there's a 25-foot power line easement, but I can't see from any aerials that I'm looking at that there's a existing power line. Is there an existing power line, or you think you need to
No, there is an existing overhead power line.
there?
And
So is this going to stay overhead?
we are hoping that it gets buried,
Okay.
but we're too early to confirm that that's going to happen. There's a lot of positives to everybody. If we can do that, the easement gets smaller. Obviously, the overhead power line. I don't know if I've worked on a project in Utah that doesn't have either a gas line or a power line or skin. For whatever reason, they're everywhere. I mean, I know the reason, but so we are hopeful that that is going to happen. And so that's what you see with our alignment.
Okay.
If
Some
it
of those
doesn't-
just seem pretty close. Like the units are very right
Yeah,
up
no,
on that
it's-
easement line.
I mean, the
I know
power-
that's legal, but that
Yeah.
seems tight.
Yeah, well, and you'll see, we do have a little extra space in there in a few spots to accommodate some of the green space and the setbacks. But yeah, we're meeting the 25 feet is so they can get in there and work on it if they have to.
Yeah.
The line would go down the middle. The other thing that I would say here on your previous comment about the buffering, we have actually been very specific on a lot of little things to where the buildings that you were talking about, we've turned those sideways. They're a little closer to the road, but they're looking away from Sierra Vista. The purple buildings that you see, we actually do have an extra buffer to those that are looking back. And the other thing that's really a nice element about the existing light industrial there is that it sets back a little bit where Sierra Vista bends around and they've got some parking there. So there is a little extra, they're not right on our property. And so, then we internalize the other units into the park. So where we could, we really try to be very specific and intentional about that buffering. And
I appreciate that, but it's noise, it's traffic,
Yeah.
it's the headlights.
And that's the other thing you can
Right.
see, we've limited our access off of Sierra Vista Way as much as possible with our two accesses coming off of Mountain Vista. We did want to leave that north-south road unobstructed as much as we could on the west side.
Yeah.
To keep that connection to the neighborhood park. But, I do think, and I don't know, if we could, Adam, when we get into platting, I know when we work in rural areas on the plat, it talks about smells, ag uses, those kinds of things. Maybe there's some acknowledgement on the real estate purchase contract or on the plat that, and I know, Aaron, you're saying you move in, it's there, but people are
Yeah.
still going to complain. So
Yeah.
how we tackle that, I think, is something we can keep on the radar.
Okay. And then you've talked a lot about walkability, but it strikes me that Mountain Vista Parkway is not a street you want people walking across.
Well, crossing, no, I mean, we are showing crossings at the State Street intersection and at the roundabout where those crosswalks do exist. And so we're moving people along those and then getting them across at the intersections.
So nobody will cross Mountain Vista.
Well,
ideally,
they'll try.
They'll try.
Yeah, but we're very
big trucks don't stop very fast.
No, yeah, and we're very specific about providing the connections out to the sidewalk and then taking people to the intersections.
Okay.
So in that case, if you're coming north to south, crossing, you're likely to cross on State Street then.
That's right.
So the traffic, the public will all come through State Street. So then it strikes me that maintaining that State Street as a walkable corridor is going to be very critical for the success here.
Yeah, and you can see, as Adam said, we've got that sidewalk, which doesn't exist today, to Joel's point, extending all the way across there. So we do acknowledge that, and you guys have the South State Street corridor overlay. And that's one of our arguments, is that this is a much better visual corridor all around, and residential uses are going to slow the traffic somewhat, but people utilizing State Street, from a pedestrian standpoint is only going to make it more active and a safer environment. There's only so much we can do. Springville is very adamant about the same situation, the same approach as well. And so we've tried to do that up and down really all of these streets.
Do you know how wide that sidewalk's going to be? Is that a 10-foot sidewalk where it can be mixed use?
I think it's 5 feet. Is it 6? Okay, 6 feet. Yeah. So it's a little bigger than your interior sidewalks are. But
Is there space for even wider sidewalk there?
potentially, what's kind of interesting is with our boundary, it's actually, part of it is actually in UDOT's right away because they're the boundary, and I know Shay and the engineering teams have been working through that on both sides, on Main Street, State Street, and 1400 North, where those facilities will be placed. So I think that there could be a conversation to expand that if that became.
It strikes me that there's a lot of traffic, foot traffic coming down State Street. Then when we get to the question in that that southeast corner around Building G and Parking Lot B, that having those standards where Building G is closer to where the parking lot is not right up against State Street is attractive to us then.
Okay.
So whatever reason, I think that then for me personally becomes a bigger deal that if that could be arranged so there's not that big parking on that one corner would be very beneficial.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm thinking about that too, but I'm wondering is there some other architectural element that accomplishes the same thing without pushing the building out there itself? I mean, we still need to talk about, to Aaron's point, about what we interpret that to be, but if we said this was probably meets the language, even if not the intent, could you put some element out there, kind of a welcome post of sorts, but big enough and grand enough that it breaks up, right? Because State Street further that way is miserable for this exact reason.
Yeah.
Could you guys help solve that?
Yeah, I think that, one of the conversations we have had as we've gotten through this, and just to touch on, Aaron's been great on the interpretation. We think it says new construction, renovation of a building. And so that's why when we design this, it's more than 100 feet away. But to try and come to a middle ground, I guess, is we have contemplated maybe a monument sign there, because we think we've done a really good job, everywhere north of there with the residential, bringing those residential uses to the street, which was the intent. We can only bring them so close because of the property boundary and the right of way. So kind of nice that we're not right on the street with our residential, but we are within that 10 to 20 foot setback from our property line. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds with that. So yeah, maybe a monument sign there.
When I'm thinking a monument sign, I'm thinking something pretty grand, right?
I'm sorry, not
a corner
sign, but like a monument
element. Yeah, would solve that, so it's not just corner big parking lot.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a great comment.
Other thoughts, questions? Okay, thanks, Eric. You can.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Deliberations, where are we at?
I'm curious what you guys are thinking about the juxtaposition of this with industrial as well as kind of isolated from the rest of Provo. I'm curious where people are at on that.
I mean, even from Springville, it's about 1.5 miles from downtown. So maybe bikeable, not quite walkable. Yeah, I mean, I love this development. I think it's really cool. I love the mixed use. It feels so detached from the surrounding land use. I'm kind of struggling to get on board with that.
But that's a Provo perspective. I don't know that that's a Springville perspective, right?
I mean, Springville, this is what, about 1400 North Springville? Downtown Springville starts around 200 North, maybe 400 if you're
But there's
generous.
lots of housing and other uses to the south. It's not like, right, the State Street to the north makes me feel that way, but I'm not sure I feel the same way to the south.
Yeah, at first, when I had a Provo perspective, I felt the same exact way. I went down there and drove it, looked around at it, and what they're talking about is that you see the residential in Springville and the additional part in Springville, so I can see where it could connect into that way. But you're right, from Provo, it's very detached.
I guess even from the Springville side, it feels like Springville doesn't really start to intensify until you get around 400 North. And that's,
Agree.
1.2 miles between those two, which, I mean, maybe if the goal is to infill that and to liven and intensify this sort of downtown corridor, then this is a great way to kick it off. I guess my question is just, is that the vision for State Street? So, yeah. And maybe I just don't have a good understanding of that.
I mean, it's an interesting point because it sounds like even if they are Provo residents, they won't feel like Provo residents. They'll feel like Springville residents. It almost makes me wonder if we should land swap and give this to Springville. Let them have it, because then they're in the right school district, right? Because you imagine if they're in Provo City School District, all their friends and church members around them, et cetera, will be in a different school district. And I just worry that they just will not feel connected to Provo there. I'm also somewhat worried about the industrial uses next door, which I think several have reflected that concern.
But I also think this feels, I think the way I think, Joel, about your comment is that anytime you're building new development in a new area, there's a phasing problem, right? There's a timing issue about the phasing of it. It's how I feel about Midtown 360, the big buildings up on State Street, right? At some point, somebody thought that was a really good idea, but they thought the whole street was going to end up matching. It was all going to come up with it, and that just didn't happen.
There's a big political story to that, but yeah,
I know. But if this is that catalyst, great. If it stalls, I'm not sure it bothers me all that much, because it's more connected to Springville, and I don't know that that's a bad thing. I don't totally understand the details of the liability, tax liability, or that kind of thing. I think very smart. Bill's smart. He'll figure it out with his staff and everything. But
I guess it feels a little bit like leapfrog development, right? Like instead of intensifying around our core and growing and, building up where we have and building this in existing neighborhoods where we already have strong public transit, strong infrastructure. Not quite greenfield, borderline greenfield development. And it just feels.
But there is stuff further to the new stuff that's shown up along this corridor.
But even that's pretty far north, right?
Not quite this far. Yeah, it's not this far south.
Past Lake Canyon Drive.
Yeah, well, I drove down there today, and I was
Sandy, could you bring up an aerial
how
that
big
shows us a little more of State Street?
Gap's large. Enough that I actually turned off the road thinking I must already be there, and I wasn't. I had to keep going. I was like, wow, this is far down here. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, and again, I love this project. I'm struggling to contextualize it in this corridor.
Yeah, there is more to the south and east, right? I think maybe it also feels farther from the developments showing up in Provo, just because there's kind of a hill that you go over in between, right? And so,
yeah, right past the gravel pit.
Yeah,
and gravel pits always.
Speaking of neighbors,
it's the same reason we want buildings along the street, not parking lots, because the gravel pit makes everything feel longer, right? Nobody wants to bike past that, or it just changes how we think about it.
So where is the nearest residential neighborhood in Provo to this? I think the blue outline is Provo, so
up there. You can see where the lots get small.
Yeah.
But there is some stuff along State Street itself that is some infill type townhome, other things that are popping up.
Not that far south, are there?
No, it's up.
To give us a rough.
But I guess that's part of my question too, because there is a lot of vacant. It's owned by somebody, but these vacant parcels to the north. There's one building, that one flat white building there. But are we? If we see this as
a mile,
so about a mile,
industrial area for residential area, is that a problem? Does it bother us? Is it a difficulty for the city? I guess is a question that's in my mind.
That's a hard one for me, because obviously there's a lot of unused industrial land. So it's not like there's so much demand. It's using it all up. We also have the airport industrial zone. On the other hand, once you lose it, you never get it back. Right.
But there is a lot. There's more to the west, right? There's a lot of open.
There is, and I've biked up on some of these minor roads that go along the railroad tracks, and there's a lot of open space. Sandy, if you go west a little bit.
That doesn't Clyde currently own along Lakeview Parkway? Is that just to the west there? Maybe Are they planning on being there for a while? Are they envisioning moving further west? Or what's the 25-year horizon for this this area? Is it staying industrial? Is it becoming more mixed
I mean,
use? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to a couple of the existing industrial owners and yeah, I mean, some of them are long-term investors, like they live, I think they're based in Indiana. And so we know them at least decently well, but, and then are you talking about the land as well there?
yeah, I mean, we can see a bunch of really huge open parcels here, which I'm assuming is also zoned industrial. We have other sections in the city that are zoned PIC. And I mean, is industry just not coming to Provo, Springville? Is that no longer highest best use in this region? I mean,
Yeah, I'm helped out in the Spanish Fork. If you guys know Stockman Flats, we were the master developer out there and 300 acres of industrial out there. And so anyway, there's a lot of groups. This is just a little too far from I-15, I think is the feedback. And they don't love the, multiple bridges. And
The largest building you see is the Vanderhall building.
Largest building,
Was that one?
the two in this kind of in the center.
That and is expanding into it. They're projecting 500 employees within the next few years in that building.
Interesting. They could all live here. You got to save some units. Yeah. I've toured the little giant ladder factory. I'm not sure they want to go anywhere. The service and financing to life. Well, Jonathan, to your question, and I want to be sensitive to the leapfrog development. I think that's a problem. We've seen that along I-15 elsewhere that I just think, what are they thinking? But I understand how that works. But this doesn't quite feel like that generally. It feels like that to Provo through that lens. But I'm in favor, but I think I would recommend a few big steps to protect the industrial, shield the industrial, protect the existing. But when I see, it's the same conversation we had a few months ago about East Bay. When you look at an area like this and see so much vacant land, you just think they're not coming now.
We're not meeting the demand
now. What's going to change in the coming decade or two that's better than this? I can't see that.
It's going to all be data centers. Okay, so yeah, I guess, I mean, I threw this out there and now I'm really thinking about it though. The only remaining concern then is that, and when we zoom out, I do see this better. The connections with neighborhood, et cetera, are with Springville. And so I really just wonder if we consider some sort of land swap or something and say, just incorporate them into Springville. They're going to feel like they're in Springville. They're going to want to attend Springville schools. They're going to want to be connected there. We can make recommendations. It's a zone change, so we can put that in our recommendation if we wanted. That be considered because they are cut off from Provo. They're not going to shop at Provo stores. They're going to shop at Springville stores. They're going to get off the freeway down here and come in, or go extra down and go to Walmart on their way home, right? And it just feels like it's going to create this little isolated bubble in the corner. I don't know.
But somebody will develop the gravel pit eventually, right? I mean, they eventually run out and then they become housing, right?
Yeah. So,
so
I don't know, 20 years from now.
Right. Yeah.
If there wasn't this one warehouse here, then yeah, there would be more potential to extend the residential lining State Street up and maybe someday create that. But there's a warehouse that kind of breaks that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's fine, but it's just thinking about community. That's the one concern. Like you guys, I like the development internally a lot.
But how many? Somebody call it how many units again? Total.
258.
258. Yeah. I mean, that's plenty for its own community, right? I mean, that's
maybe, yeah. That depends how you define community, right?
Right. I'm with you, but I also think
it's not a school. It's
right.
Yeah.
So a question for the planning, is it possible that arrangement could be made where they could attend Springville schools? Or would it be required to attend Provo schools? I know that's different school districts. But
I really don't know.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to guess. I'm sorry.
I know years ago, people in South Provo went to Springville schools.
Say what?
But don't know.
Really?
From my experience with my kids, it seems like it's pretty liberal. Like there's a lot of flexibility if you can justify it, but
within district there's more.
But for me personally, I don't know that it's a negative, but I don't think it's a huge negative. I mean, based on what we were talking about earlier tonight, 258 units, this seems like moving the needle. A 12-unit building,
Mm-hmm.
a little different, right? And I don't know. I don't know that I have a lot of remaining reservations about this. Tosh, thoughts?
I was gonna say, I quite like it. I live in that Spring Creek neighborhood, and it's interesting to see there's condos and then there's storage units, and then condos and then the storage units, condos and townhomes and storage units. So for me, this is just par for the course. It fits right in. You know,
Build some storage units.
yeah, that's right. Next door, just north should be storage units. So, excuse me.
Yeah.
So, and I think you have to start somewhere. I think people need homes. Need homes, guys. We have a shortage, you know. And I think I like it. That's me.
Yeah, well, that's noodling. Sandy, could we go back to, I think it's slide 3 of Aaron's? Can you pull up that language so we can speak to that a little bit before we make a motion?
Mm-hmm.
So the bottom of the left side is the framing of the right side, right? So audience, bear with us while we read.
Do you know how these compare to Springfield design guidelines?
So I can tell you my reading of it right now. I think the comma is important. It should really be an or. So it's talking any new construction or additions and exterior alterations to existing buildings, right? Those are the two options. So the question then becomes, what is new construction? They are building a parking lot, for example. Is that new construction? And if that's true, does that mean buildings have to be within it? I think the monument idea is an interesting one to say, yes, we're putting some sort of building-ish kind of thing there to meet the goal of it. But from a strict reading of it, I would say it says that a building needs to be within those parameters from the street.
Well, yeah, because it says accessory buildings also.
Yeah.
So if we're saying this is a project and any accessory building also needs to be that close, then yeah, the intent is not to have a big parking lot
Right.
in the street.
Yeah, otherwise you could just build a Walmart 500 feet back and put the parking lot up on State Street.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly for that reason, it seems like a stretch to me to say that that doesn't count, because if that's true, then only buildings within between 10 and 100 feet actually fall under this rule, and you could just go past 100 feet and say, I'm free, right? And that seems to defeat the purpose of this. So I guess my feeling is, but on the flip side, from a project specific one, I do get why they're doing it the way they are, because they're trying to create this nice corridor in the middle that has a walkway and then stores that are accessible along that walkway with parking kind of in the back, if you will. And they want that walkway to be in the middle, which makes sense to me to get that walkway away from State Street.
But I think that's true. This is viewed as a one-off project instead of as part of a State Street vision.
Yeah.
So I think if the intent is to turn State Street into something and to create this walkable mixed-use environment, then it has to be oriented in that way. And we have to be setting the groundwork that this is beautifying and improving our gateway.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the traffic study figure in our report, I don't know if they have it on a PowerPoint slide. It's interesting because they actually have an extra building over there in that version. And the parking lot's just smaller. So I'm guessing they had to take it out to get parking spot requirements. But you guys see that when you look at the traffic study one? It's page 10 of item 5.
Sneaky.
And you can see there's a building in the corner there. So I'm guessing it was a parking requirement change. But that seems to fit it well.
Yeah. But see, my issue on reading this, Sandy, can you go back to the aerial that shows their plan? Yep. Thank you. One way to read that then is that every building, like that parking lot between D and A, is now inappropriate also, which just feels like there's a
Yeah.
line where we can't keep doing that.
That's Springville.
That's fair. That's fair.
But you
But-
do
but I
bring
get
up
the
a good
intention.
point
But your
about
point is
the
valid.
density of buildings along
Right,
there.
you don't-
How
you also-
frequently do you have to have a building
Yeah,
within
you
10
have
or 20
access, but we don't
spaces?
have access because it's State Street.
Because that's something
So-
vague, right? Because they could claim, well, D count makes that requirement because it's within 10 or 20 feet.
Right.
And now we get to have a certain number of feet until we have to do it again.
But I don't see that in the code. I don't see that every.
It's neither yes or no, right? It's not defined how
Right.
frequently you have
That's
to
why I
do
think
that.
like if there were a substantial enough monument from a walkability point, when you get to that corner of adjacent to G, right, under parking lot B, that if there were some big element, like fairly grand, could even be a place where you could have a food truck or a cart or something that people could stop at. Now you've broken that up and it's that rhythm and that breaking. I think in urban design, they call it moth eaten. And when you have too many big parking lots, you start eating up and now it just feels awkward. And we're walking down the street going, oh, another parking lot, another gravel pit, right? And that's what our brain interprets. But I also don't think it's reasonable to push all those buildings to Main Street and feel like that solves what we want.
So you're talking about like what the Riverwoods has on the corner there kind of thing? I mean, it's pretty substantial.
No, not a sign. I'm thinking more like if you've been to
Well, it's a sign,
St.
but there's
George,
also
the
like
big-
a fountain and some flowers and like a little wooden bridge on the bike trail. Like it's
Oh, that's
Pretty
not quite
worked
on the
out.
corner. No, I'm thinking more like something, St. George's, I think it's their main city park, has this big element. It looks like it could have been attached to a townhome building on the corner too. Like it's that kind of, you can walk underneath it. SUU has something like that all the graduates kind of walk under, kind of the big elements, almost 2-story. I don't know. I think you guys get the vision. Like if there was something that breaks up that street scene for both directions across where that parking is, whatever street that's going to take on the name, the 66-foot Rose Street, and on Main Street, there's an element missing there that helps break that rhythm of just parking lot when you cross the street.
I mean, I guess I have a question of our purview here. We're asked to interpret this, but how far can we go?
Well, my interpret, if you go back to the next one, thanks, Sandy. So all of those, whatever the commas is, all those things, that construction located within 100 feet of South State Street at any public street that intersects with South State Street. It doesn't say, like, I'm kind of with them. I think that's ambiguous a little bit. And
It
I
is
think
definitely
there's
ambiguous.
a pretty logical, but I understand the intent. But I also don't think you can put all those buildings across State Street, which also, if we're interpreting this as keep everything off 10 feet off, well, then we should have no parking lots. But I'm not sure that's reasonable either.
Well, I think they can solve the problem. They'll be able to. But it does say and accessory buildings. So
But then it says that are
All-
located within 100 feet.
all principal buildings and accessory buildings that are located within 100 feet.
See, for me, that's saying when additions and exterior alterations apply. But this is new construction, I think, and so it already applies.
But it says new construction within 100 feet of South State Street. This is not
Yeah.
new construction within 100
Like
feet.
if you're constructing a parking lot, you're constructing.
It's new.
So the construction project includes the land within 100 feet.
New construction and additions and exterior alterations to all principal buildings.
Yeah.
It's a lot of ends within 100 feet, which this is not. Right?
But the parking lot is.
Parking lot is, it's part of the project.
So then what do you say that then the parking lot has to be within 10 feet?
Well, no, it's
What do you- what
a
do you-
project that has new construction and it is within 100 feet. The project is the
the
area of
buildings-
the
Oh, you're
project.
saying because the parking lot is within 100 feet, this qualifies.
Yes, and therefore buildings have to be within that. That's how I read it.
Okay, I get you now.
I do agree that it's vague and it's confusing, but
So
That's how I
Sandy,
read
sorry,
it.
Sandy, will you go back? One more, the previous one. So Aaron, in your viewpoint, how would you how would we have applied this historically? Does that mean G, F, and E, and D all need to be, I know there's a Springville line there, but
If there wasn't,
how would you interpret that across? Do all those buildings need to be on?
No,
guess
I
that's
wouldn't,
where
I
I'm-
wouldn't take it that far. I think buildings A and D meet the intent. I think building G does not meet the intent.
And if they did some kind of accessory in that corner adjacent, within 10 feet of the street or property line, then it meets the intent?
Yeah, I mean, if there was a building out there that, you know, gave you a buffer from the parking lot to the pedestrian path, I think that's what the goal is.
can I push on that a little bit?
Sure.
So there's a gap between A and D. C's in there within the gap. So, I mean, are gaps okay, and how big can they get?
Yeah, and like you said, it's very vague. It's not clear on any of that stuff. Like in our downtown zone, it's very specific. You must hide the parking lot behind the building, right? Going with that same type of idea, this isn't a downtown environment. So maybe that's why it was written in such a way. It wasn't written well. We can all recognize that. But I think,
I mean, honestly, I don't know if I would have done better.
I think
it shows up and you see it, right?
I think we would interpret it as building G would have to go out to the street.
So basically that gap's just too big in that case between D and the townhomes to the north.
Well, and honestly, we're not looking at building D, right? Because it's not in Provo. But I see what.
Just for a mental practice here, pretend
But it
it's all
seems like we
Provo.
need real substantial, some element between that intersection and the Springville property line. But it doesn't have to be a conditioned space, right? Because doesn't say that.
Right, it doesn't say that.
But it could be, there needs to be something there. Do we all agree that a pavilion, something grand? Any objection to that as the kind of the interpretation? But I think maybe where we all are struggling is there's no defined space of how much parking lot can touch the street frontage. But there's nothing to give us guidance. So I think the guidance is we need something monumental between the intersection and the Springville line.
So it's not all parking.
Aaron, is that enough interpretation guidance? Clear as mud? Okay.
Yeah, the goal is to like shunt people to these sort of pedestrian arterials. Yet the art walk, you have this one kind of in the middle of the townhomes on the west, and then the State Street one. It feels like that parking lot on State Street just like breaks up the pedestrian experience. So yeah. And the rest of it, the art walk is a clear through line, and on the west side you have kind of a vision there. But yeah, it feels like that just
And just a reality check. What we're trying to do is enable good design from good, responsible developers. Clyde wants to be that. Is that too casual? Can I call you Clyde? I think some kind of element helps us feel better about that, and I think does speak to both the intent and the code the way it's written.
And this is our gateway.
Yeah.
And so if our gateway's a parking lot, it doesn't feel like it's right.
got right on the city boundary.
Yeah.
Even a great welcome to Provo. I mean, yeah, give us a better sign than the one over on the east side.
There you go. We've given you some stuff to work with, right? Aaron, is that enough? Okay. Any last questions, deliberations? Are we ready for a motion?
Let's do some motions.
Motion?
Yep.
Or did you have something?
Just gonna say, I like it. I mean, I do. It's a really great project. And I know there's concerns that it's the very corner of the city, but I think if you zoom out, it's not going to be too isolated. At some point, we're likely going to fill the corridor and it's going to be all right. That's a lot of houses it provides.
Okay, and just a reminder, we have 3 distinct items. Right? Item 3 is a recommendation to City Council. Item 4 also, and item 5 is the concept plan that we will vote on.
I can do the first one.
Please do.
And I'm going to use this language that they've put in here. They have, just so people know, they have all the options here. They're not telling us what to do, but it's shorter language, so I'm going to try it. I move that Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council of a general plan map amendment of the industrial designation to a mixed-use designation for 21.6 acres of land located at 3657 South Sierra Vista Way.
Seconded.
Comments on the motion? Let's vote. Joel, you good to start us off?
The motion was to propose approval.
Yes.
Recommend approval.
Nay.
I'll vote aye.
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 I'll say aye. So that motion passes 5-1. Joel, anything in particular you want to highlight?
I think I still just, I'm still struggling to see the vision for the whole corridor. Maybe if there was a plan from Provo's side where we say this is what we envision State Street becoming, instead of it just leapfrogging and turning into sort of, I mean, this is better than, I talked about the project up in the foothills as like high density sprawl. And I don't think this is quite that, just because there is a more mixed use environment, but I don't want to just see rows of townhomes that are only accessible by car and that have very little amenities. And I know this is more than that, but I would want to see a vision, I think, for the whole corridor before we open this gateway, if that makes sense.
Is there a way we can make this more exemplar? Right? Let this be the tone setting. Let's say, hey, we like this. We want more of this connecting.
I think it's capable of doing that, but I think without a vision in place and without a plan in place, it's hard to say what comes next. So I think, yeah, I'm not opposed to the project. I'm not opposed to the concept plan. In fact, I'll vote to approve the concept plan, but I think I think just with this being the first in that sort of major development in that corridor, I would want to see something, a vision for that corridor.
Like Clyde buying more land?
My plan on that particular issue, just so everybody knows, is on item 4. I would love to attach a recommendation to the City Council that they consider the idea of this just becoming part of Springville, because I think that has a plan that this fits into and more cohesiveness than being part of Provo. And if it's a tax liability anyway, just send it. Well, Springville needs housing too.
Okay, someone want to make a motion on item 4, again, a recommendation to City Council.
Should I try?
You ready?
The first one, yeah.
There's a recommendation of the language in the staff report if you want it, but
This over here. Oh, okay. So I recommend approval for item number 4, right? The proposal is consistent with the general plan.
Just read this over here.
Oh, Planning Commission recommends approval of the City Council of a zone map amendment from the PIC zone to the MDR and CG zones for 21.6 acres of land located at 3657 South Sierra Vista Way.
I have a second on that motion.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any comments on the motion?
Yeah, so how do you guys feel about that recommendation that they at least consider allowing it to be more cohesive with Springville surrounding neighborhoods by having it be part of Springville?
I think from a living standpoint, that kind of makes sense. From a tax or a revenue standpoint, I'm not sure what makes sense. So I'm fine throwing that out there and letting people who know the details of that make a decision. I would still vote the way I'm intending to vote.
I mean, the other way, if it's cleaner for you guys, if I'm kind of unique feeling this way, I'm happy to just vote no on it and then have that amended to my vote kind of thing. That also works.
That might be cleaner. I wonder if it doesn't feel like it's part of this question, this purview for us. So.
Okay.
Okay. Julie, then starting us with the vote.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
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 All vote aye, which my count is 4-2 in favor. And Jonathan,
So mine is, yeah, my concern about a zone change here is that It doesn't feel cohesive with the rest of Provo, and I'm concerned about the effects on the residents feeling disconnected from the community, and they might be better served being attached to Springville as their community.
Okay, item 5, which is the concept plan that we get to approve or deny. Any further conversation? Somebody ready to make a motion?
I guess just some recommendations I would want to see is to make sure there's a cohesive vision for the pedestrian and transit and I guess the non-driver experience in this sort of mixed use development. I just had the thought, if you're trying to cross the street to access the neighborhood across, is it Mountain Vista Drive? You could potentially have to walk a quarter mile to get from your house up to the next intersection and back down. So, and I understand there's truck traffic coming through there and you don't want to have so many crossings, but yeah, if this is supposed to be a mixed use walkable, then yeah, balancing those, I think it's challenging, but also something that needs to be given priority.
And I would say we've also talked a lot about buffering the industrial zones in a more cohesive kind of intentional way. I know there was some intention. I'm not trying to belittle that. And also, lost my train of thought there.
The corner.
Yeah, the corner. Yes, thank you. The corner element as well.
I almost wonder though that this one we approve or disapprove. So it's a little bit tricky because once we approve it, there's no obligation.
Approve with
to do anything.
conditions.
Yeah, but would our approval with conditions have teeth at all? I don't know if it would.
Well, but we are going to see
How does that work, Aaron?
You could have conditions that need to be shown when it comes back for project plan.
Okay, I like it then.
So I think we would say those 3, right? The corner element addressed in some productive way, the industrial protection or relationship, neighboring, and now I forgot the first one.
Cohesive vision for the
the pedestrian across Mountain View Parkway
walkability and transit kind of pieces.
What's the name of that road?
Mountain View, Mountain Vista.
Mountain Vista.
And the transit overall piece that they're working on, but we'll want to see more detail.
I love those.
A 10-foot sidewalk.
Yeah, I wonder if like a shared use path along that corridor. There's definitely right away for it, and State Street's huge.
But it's not really theirs because it's UDOT. We'll have to work with UDOT to make that happen.
Maybe we need that on our active transportation plan then.
And it always bothers me a little if like their project does it, but then the next projects don't.
Hit the Springville border and
it's like
sidewalks 3 feet.
Right? That's frustrating. Okay, somebody ready to make a motion? John, you got
John, I
this
think
one?
got
I'll
it.
try it.
Okay.
Planning Commission approves. So I move that the Planning Commission approves the proposed concept plan subject to the associated general plan map and the zone map amendments being approved by the City Council with the following conditions. 1, that there be a cohesive vision for the non-driver experience, specifically crossing at the Mountain Vista Parkway. 2, that there consider improved buffering at the industrial zones to make the buffering that they're more intentional. 3, that the corner parking experience or the, how do I say that?
Mountain Vista.
It's not Mountain Vista. The entrance from the gateway into Provo on State Street. That corner parking be adjusted so that it meets the intent of the ordinance. And 4, that they're trying to consider a shared use path on State Street.
I would add 5th that the transit actually be defined, the bus stops or
5th, that the bus stops be defined properly.
And you put the buffering with industrial, right? That's 2,
that
I think.
was
Okay,
number
good.
2. Yep. Do I have a second to that motion?
A second.
Thank you, Joel. Or vote, Joel?
Aye.
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 I'll say aye, so that one passes 6-0. Okay, I think that's all our agenda items. We will.
I move
I move that we adjourn.
Move that we adjourn. Need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Tosh. All right, see you next time.
Now you got to say all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks you, John. Jonathan.